Order. Carrie.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
So I have several things to go through this morning. I think I'll start right at the top in terms of reports. There are 3 different reports that I have for you folks. The 2 are the traditional 2 that I do, the ticketing report and the projects report. And then I have the cybersecurity report as well. I think I'd like to just start with the ticketing report. That one's pretty standard, and see if there's any questions on that one at all. Okay, the projects report I'll do next. There are several new projects on that, I guess. Run through, I don't know if anybody had any specific questions. The projects that are complete and moving off are, one is our office move to our temp location. We're out of the old space and into our new temp location. And I removed the Board of Elections printers because I think we decided we're not going that specific direction. Talk about that more in the next meeting. And then I've added a bunch of other projects at the top. I don't know if anybody had any questions.
I'm sure with this just a typo, but on the phone system call center, it's 7,000%.
That is definitely a typo. I apologize for that. It should be 70. Yeah, I know. Gosh, I missed that one. Yep. 700. Yeah. When we're all done, it'll be about that. But
That's good.
Okay.
Any questions for Carrie?
And then the cybersecurity report is the next report. So I wanted to talk about this just a little bit because I kept the same format that we previously had. I wanted to understand completely where all the numbers were generated from, so I decided to keep it for this month. Next month, I will likely change it up a bit. Bring some new things, and I would definitely love any input that you folks have, as I bring some things forward and see what you think, what you like, what you don't. If I just really want to bring things that I find valuable and interesting, for the cybersecurity side of things.
I love your monthly item of interest there. Don't laugh because has anybody else in the room downloaded an AI GPT chat?
No, that's open Al. It's changing things, not AI, it's Al. That's what I read it as.
But it's very interesting, and it's understanding how the algorithm of AI works, and it's all about our inputs into it, but on the counter side, the inputs that are being put in there by somebody trying to fish for us. So it's very convincing in how the answers are generated back to you. So
It's going to change the world, to be
Yeah,
honest with you.
absolutely.
It will change everything. Even things you don't consider, like phishing emails, that we can spot because of the typos of due to a different language, will go away. They'll look legitimate and they'll all look real. Things like software program. It's simple programs, people writing malware. I want to write a program to do this, to chat GPT, and I need the outcome, please generate a JavaScript, and they'll be able to do that,
Right.
to be able to set up. Exactly. And you won't even realize. And so it's huge. It's scary, very scary from an IT perspective. You don't think about intellectual property theft. I was doing some reading, in the news, and think about somebody writing a book. And then you say, I like this book, but I don't want to get, dinged for copyright. They'll take and just jumble just enough to get past that copyright protection, reproduce it. And the person that's producing it didn't even do any work for it.
as they said, I think one of Poe's works, when they had taken out Edgar Allan Poe 10 months to write, or 10 weeks to write, an AI platform could write 1 million of the same piece of work, variations in a matter of 10 seconds. So,
Absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah, very scary.
Two things. Number one on that topic. Magazine I write for got a submission from me. This whole big long written article called on AI, and he picked it up because the address was different. Where they wanted to contact. And he said it had my style even down pretty well.
Wow.
They said, apparently I keep saying however. However, was a big bridge for me, and there wasn't a single however in it, so I knew it wasn't mine. But face it back, it wasn't AI, a guy did it through that.
Yeah.
Same program.
Oh, my goodness,
So,
wow.
I mean, a whole new column, you know.
And the more you're published out there,
Yeah,
you know, and you've got quite a bit of.
oh, yeah, that's, I got,
Yeah.
I got 5 or 6,000
Yeah, so it
things
takes,
they can pick from, you know,
Right.
so. Anyway, that's not my
Get
question.
paid?
not that one.
I was glad the editor caught it. I mean, you know, it would have just suddenly appeared in one of these magazines. Hey, what the hell is that? You know? Board advisories relating to election stuff. Can you
Yeah, so
expand
we,
on that a little bit?
yeah, so we receive different alerts every month. So every month you'll see those that'll be on there. And from the ISAC, so MS ISAC and the EISAC for elections are different. In this particular case, like one of them, for example, was a vendor that had been phished, and so they want you to be on the alert. So they're really just technical alerts where you're looking out for certain things. And so in this case, it was an email they were looking out for. I can't recall the other ones. But all the alerts are based on a lot of time hardware that has had a vulnerability, and then they publish the vulnerability so that you patch it. I've always thought it was, it makes it challenging, and Microsoft does it too. Oh, we have this vulnerability. It's here, patch.
Yeah.
Well, now you just told all the criminals that that vulnerability is there too. So if you don't patch, you know, they're going to be after your
Yeah.
systems. And so I think that, you know, alerting is good, but it certainly has some challenges.
Could be a little more covert.
Yeah, nothing super urgent, I mean, nothing critical, it's
Okay.
just the normal.
All right.
And this is gonna be a crazy question, but the deputies' cameras, okay, that they wear, do they, it's more than just visual, they also do sound.
Yes,
Okay, in that sound, do they do decibel levels? Do you know if it does that part?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure if they do this. I think it's just a standard recording device. It's very much like a webcam. And normally in those type of cameras, you can't necessarily adjust, you know, how it hears. They're just built to maximize the sound around. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. I could find out if you'd like.
I would love it.
So when you say decibel levels, what are you trying to learn? Or
What I'm trying to learn is we have a constant every time of sound, and it gives you a noise. And gives the deputies under all. It'd be like, they don't have to go there as much.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And
Okay.
it could really, you know, you could have noise ordinance, or you could have decibel levels. Problem could be solved.
You think
You don't think
it's that easy.
You know, oh, no, I know, I believe me, I know it's not that easy.
So- So you don't mean the body cams, do you, that they wear?
Yeah, that they had the cameras, right?
Oh, where they could go and then see.
They're there all the time.
Oh,
Right, but there is handheld audio meters.
yeah, I don't think
That'd
the
be
cameras.
far better than the cameras accuracy.
Wait till you try it. Wait
Yeah,
till you try it. I've been through that for the past 30 years. If you ever do make a case, you spend forever testifying and trying to get the makers of the device to come in and testify, and we've never actually convicted anybody using a decimal meter. Not even once in my personal experience.
Yeah, did you say they gotta be calibrated?
I think they have, even the ones like the one we have up in Kingsbury. Ours has to be calibrated. I think the one, they all have to be calibrated.
I would say 99%, the 99.8%, I could say the body cams won't have that because they're looking to reduce background noise. They're going to reduce it to be able to bring, you know, speech and those type of things forward. So it would have to be a separate device. to be able to do that.
And generally, a lot of these are complaints are neighbor against neighbor. And sometimes it's really not about sound. The other problem is that there's so much work to do for deputies, write the ticket and prepare the case. And they just don't have the time to do a lot of that stuff.
Believe me, they don't have the time.
Don't have time to go there all the time.
My friend.
Way too.
Any other audio questions or any other questions? else do we have?
So the next thing, on the agenda was it the cybersecurity grant from last year?
Yep.
I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we needed to accept the cybersecurity grant from November. Is that correct? Okay.
Move it.
Second.
Cassie, second by Jimmy. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Overnight travel request.
Yep, I have 2 overnight travel requests. They are soon, so they're in May, 2 separate ones. So one of them is for Lisa McDonald to go to the New World Conference. It is in the budget. The travel plan was submitted. And she goes with Becky, right?
We already have a resolution for that.
What's that?
We already have a resolution for that.
Oh, we do?
There's a board resolution authorizing that out of state travel.
All right. So I don't need to do that one, I guess, then.
We did it in the fall.
You were so
Okay.
efficient.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think I'm a little behind. I probably should have done it last month or something.
No, we did it
Not
together.
used to doing
We did it together in the fall.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Way ahead.
Way ahead, so we're good. The next one is a little bit last minute, is we have the NYSLITA conference, which is next week. Karen usually would attend in the past, and she's not this year. The cost is not an issue. It's $100 for the whole trip, including everything. So that is part of our dues and everything that I would take out of the budget. But we'd like to send Ryan from our team to the NYSLITA conference so that we have representation. I'm personally not able to go. It's in Syracuse.
Okay.
Yep, so it would be overnight travel for him from Tuesday to Friday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night.
Motion by Tim. Have a second. Second by Cassie. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next.
I believe that it was everything on the agenda, and I have one thing that's other business, which is, and I apologize, I neglected to bring it last month. I should have brought it, but we have a Wi-Fi project that's part of the switching project. So we'll be replacing all the Wi-Fi. It's in the budget. It's all budgeted for. So I'm not asking for any more money. What I'd like to ask for is a waiver from the purchasing process or the purchasing policy. Get my terminology correct. It's 76,000. It is all on state contract, like all the hardware and everything, but it was part of the bigger switch project with the installation because of the network and the upgrades to the network. So I was hoping to bring that. And again, I apologize. I should have brought that when I brought the switching project.
Do you want a waiver because?
Because it's
Vendor is doing the installation.
same vendors doing the installation. We're buying it as a bigger product. So it's all one sale to get the discounts.
Motion by Jimmy. Do I have a second? Second by Cassie. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
So that is all I have, unless anybody has any questions or anything else.
So that was resolution 295 from December. If you need to approve that.
Thank you.
Before you adjourn, did we approve the minutes for last month?
Need a motion to approve minutes last month? Motion by Mr. Nolan, second by Mr. Fisher. Any omissions or corrections? All in favor? Carried. We're adjourned.
That's not so bad.
I'm just saying.
I know. It was only yesterday.
I was nervous until I saw it on the one.
I haven't been here. I don't know what's either, background. Well, I have my laptop.
You have it.
No, because I've been working with them. And so. I'll check that. And she will. Whatever you say. She will. She's.
I'll reach out to her. Thanks. That's good.
Okay, let's call a government acts meeting to order. First up, we have to accept the minutes from the March 21st meeting. Moved by Dan, seconded by Tim. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, Matt, you're first up.
All right. First up is project updates. Right now, we're currently working on a remodel down in IT. guys noticed or drove in the back, we got a dumpster out back and chute for all the scrap and everything go out. What I'm asking for today, I have a line for office furniture to replace all the office furniture in that office, which will be replacing. Some is outdated and ready to go to scrap, small desk, little desk. Some of it is going to be repurposed to other departments, some of the workstations. But as we redo, departments are like that, we try to update the furniture. And I think the quote is around 22,000. We have, I think, 16,000 in my budget for furniture, which last fall we weren't far enough along, so I just kind of guessed at it. So I'd like to either do a budget transfer from my repair and maintenance, which is a 0.4321 to the 0.2010 to be able to purchase the furniture. Furniture has to come out of the 0.2010. So we can do a transfer. That's what I guess my motion is, requesting a transfer of that money.
Moved by Tim, second by Dave. Any further discussion? Dana?
Where is it coming from? What line?
It's gonna come from 0.4321, 1620.4321
It's gonna go into office equipment.
into office equipment.
Al?
Now, are we sure that all the furniture is over the threshold?
Yes, I talked to Barb this morning.
Okay.
I
Because some of the stuff doesn't.
that's right. Some of it, so some of the 0.4 and 0.2, the way we purchase things, like I guessed the year before and I'll put it in the 0.4 equipment and it'll go to 0.2. And if I guess 0.2, it'll be 0.4. It all depends on how much the threshold is and if it's just over or just under. So
Matt, how much money do you want to take out?
I'm gonna take 6,000.
6,000.
Yes.
Any further questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Other ongoing projects are ground cleanups, park cleanups we're working on. So we're a lot of my labor's going to that sort of stuff right now. We are shorthanded, had retirement and job transfer. So we're down some people, but we're making it work until we get somebody hired or multiple people hired. I think you guys have all seen that in the personnel chain here recently. So if you know anybody or you know any, send them our way. Fill out applications. Capital project updates. The Law Center roof is full swing. Big project been going on for the main construction part of it for a couple of weeks now. They do section at a time, section at a time. So far, it's been pretty smooth. I mean, every time they work on it, the old roof is so bad that we get leaks every time. They're working on it, they get leaks. They walk across the rubber, it's brittle. So if it rains, we're chasing leaks while we're fixing it, so.
How old was the other roof?
It was about 21 or 22. Yeah, it's original roof. And I was kind of hoping because now, I mean, I think it's state law or whatever, regular practice, the minimum is 25-year warranty on a roof. So I'm like, oh, this will be great. So I went through all the original job and we bought a 5-year warranty on that roof. So you can't even do that. That was a 5-year warranty on that.
But there's 25 on a new roof.
Yes. So. Long enough to see somebody else.
I was waiting for that comment.
So. Yeah, this been a 25-year roof. Now, I don't know how it would have prorated and everything, but we would have, something for the materials anyways. The St. Paul's roof, which right now is in engineering, the chillers and for this building and the 2 rooftop units, 5 and 6 for the kitchen over at the jail should all go out to bid this month. I'm working with Barb on the dates right now, but we've kind of got the details down. and ready to go. So it's just the dates of putting it in the newspaper to make everything legal and go out the bid. So hopefully it'll be 2 months before you hear, you know, the actual cost of what it's gonna cost us to do those projects. The Fort Ann DPW barn, I have to meet with Sam and the town attorney and one other vested parties to work on a boundary line adjustment for the barn out of the full 17 acres that's there. We're gonna do a boundary line adjustment. I think we've agreed upon where the county and the town are gonna both own the property. And what that does is two things. It allows our bond counsel to say, you're building a building on property you own, which they're not gonna lend the money without that. And the second thing it does is it frees up us from the rest of the property. So if Fort Ann does anything in the future, we don't have to okay it because our name is on it. So whenever we have that meeting, I'll just show you what the boundary lines are, but it basically will be big enough for our DPW to operate. And give Sam room to do future stuff on the property.
Hopefully we have that the first of next week.
Okay, that'd be great. Few hiccups on that one right now that we might not meet our deadline of going out to bid this spring like I was hoping is the boundary line adjustment. We're gonna get that done. National Grid easement for sewer. We're gonna try to work on that because it's a straight shoot down to where the sewer is located instead of out to the street, all the way down and then all the way out through, which will cost us a pump system down the road. So it's just worth waiting a little bit to try to get that easement to go straight down through.
I think the engineer for the project and
They're there
they're
today.
there today with the public works guy from the village.
Yes, yep, they're doing a survey of where the manhole is so they can get in order to get our easement through National Grid, we have to have a, survey from there to there. And they have to know if it's downhill enough. That's pretty much your updates with the Fort Ann DPW. So it's just tying up the loose ends before, but the engineering is coming along pretty good. They're going right through. Middle Falls, they're in the preliminary engineering stage, so I'd expect maybe in the next month to have some preliminary drawings to bring to everybody. This is, what's suggested we do and where we put the barn on the property, orientation, that sort of stuff. So I'm hoping maybe by next month we'll have that. The Valmet project, which is down back. I know I've reported the trailer is gone, but now I've met with both the adult nutrition program and the sheriff's department to see what their needs are, for a proposed building down there. And I'm working with ME Engineering on that one to come up with basically some sort of drawing and preliminary engineering to present. So.
Matt, did you, there was discussion on that, the storage shed, where you got lawn maintenance stuff and all that.
Yep.
Was that gonna come down and was it all gonna be incorporated, or you decided to leave that alone? I forgot.
So
I remember talking.
So we're gonna separate the two, even though it's one area project, because the actual building where adult nutrition and the sheriff's needs would be something that we have to do the preliminary engineering to try to help get any grant money and this or that, whereas the storage building is separate. And I didn't feel the need to really get that engineered. We'll probably could do, an engineer build or something on that. Buy a pre-engineered building. This is the location and try to minimize, the cost.
Your engineering, you've got to decide where it's gonna go, right? I mean,
Yes.
are you factoring in another building there?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and how about the one you're tearing down? What's the name of the old house there that you,
Street House.
is that factored into that whole area? Because
Well,
you keep talking about.
yeah, so this area, we're hoping that the storage building in this building would be the domino effect that there's the Olive Street House does have stuff in it that we have to have. right now the sheriff's person at the scene, so there's stuff for our maintenance for the jail that can't be in the jail anymore, you know, in that building. There is valuable stuff in there that we do need to keep files. Yes, there is a lot of junk and you've probably all seen it and heard about it, but we need these buildings to be able to tear that one down because we have to put that stuff somewhere.
No, but I'm just in the big picture.
Big picture, that would be gone.
Okay. No, but I mean, and where everything's gonna be located, you kind of got a rough idea.
Yeah, and you'll see that as soon as we get this done, that'll kind of, I'll broaden it up so you can kind of see the domino effect of if this is built, these are the buildings that would be replaced. And
Sue? And when we did the tour of the jail, they took us back to that area and talked with us about it. And it seemed like a different story than the storage building, but it seemed like there was really direct needs that could be met in a
yeah,
more efficient manner. Is that what the engineering study was about?
yes.
That
So
makes sense. Thank you.
their needs, I can just bring it up just quick, are basically they're out of room for people on storage, et cetera. They can't store evidence somewhere outside. It's got to be in a secure area. So basically the idea with this building would be to move the investigators, which are able to operate in a separate area from administration and deputies. They can operate on their own. So the office space that we would be building out there would be about 10 investigators. That would free up the area inside the secure area for their evidence needs and their, which a lot of it right now is new gun laws, so they have to keep them longer and more of them. You know, they have hundreds and hundreds there, so.
The one thing was there was an entrance door that could change. That looked like the only place the entrance door would go would be through the main electrical panel.
So, oh yeah, so you're talking a few years back when we did that. That idea, you know, it's really not possible. It's a great idea, but that's where the utility hub and everything comes into the jail. It's where your electric, so where everything is, all your utilities are at that corner of the jail. To remodel there would be not impossible, because nothing's impossible, but it would be really not feasible. Yeah, so
Okay.
we'd stay clear of that area.
Thank
The public health move, I met with Tina and the architect this last month. I think we're ready to submit another round of application to the Department of Health, so we just don't know how long they take when we submit something like this. They could get it back in next week and say, hey, looks good, and then we would go into the design phase of what we needed to do. You know, for entrance or ADA, whatever they tell us we need to do. So small steps forward on that, but they are steps forward. It's just a lot of back and forth. And it is a pretty lengthy application, so. Parks, I can throw out some dates, but we'll have a flyer that we'll send to everybody's email. If you need copies made, you know, for your town hall or to hand out, just let me know, but we'll send it May 27th, which is Memorial Day. They open up for the weekends until June 24th, when they go full-time. Hewlett's is 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. hours. The beach is open at 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Lake Lauderdale, the park is open from, I think that one's 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. And the beach. Seem to have lifeguards and we seem to have help, so hopefully we have a good season, and we do have those projects which are on our radar. I know we funded them, but I don't have them scheduled yet. I just don't have enough guys, you know, to have them scheduled, but I'm hoping, you know, sometime midsummer to start working on the roof and the railings, and we'll do the maintenance stuff. You know, it's needed to have people there, but just have enough guys to schedule sooner. That's all I have for you.
Thank you.
Pretty easy. Took me 10 minutes to tell you all that.
Yep.
Took me all month to do it.
Have a good day. You're up, Laura.
Box of tickets.
What?
Box of tickets, says yes.
Yep. I get an awful lot of flack for the long meetings, so we're gonna move it along. Yeah.
So I'm gonna reverse a little bit on this and just. I'm gonna pass them around to all the rest of the supervisors, would be great. Just touch on my, I gotta keep it before that can go out. They got those over there. Those four. Before actually. Okay, so there'll be extras being. We got four, no, they don't, we got 4 supervisors. Not here. Thank you. Okay, so here's my annual report I submit every year. If you look in the middle of the report, we did have some changes to some exemption levels. A couple towns in Washington County, Cambridge and Granville, and a couple schools, Greenwich and Salem, have had some recent changes to their exemption levels for their senior citizens exemption. It's gonna look like this page right, these pages right here, okay? Just bear in mind that the county is not even to the full max for the senior exemption, but they will, because now the state has enacted legislation where you can go up to 50,000 as the base for the senior citizens exemption and the disabled limited. But we do have some towns that are not up to the county level. If you want to bring this to your town, please let us know. We can run some scenarios on what the shift would be, what the impact would be. And next year, it's in legislation right now. We'll see if this all passed in the budget. The verification of income that the assessors receive in the past has been, you add this, you take out this for their income. It's becoming more straightforward. So there will be some changes in what the assessors receive going forward for income if this does pass. But if you're not up to the county level, I kind of recommend you take a look at that for any of those 3 or 4 exemptions, okay? In the back of the book, on the last page, I have put that in our new firefighters emergency EMS, and that's the next thing I'm going to go over quickly about enacting that for the upcoming cycle. Any of these exemptions, if you decide to make a change, has to be via local law on the town or village base of town level. Okay. Yep.
I would like to see the county offer this exemption for the volunteer firefighters and EMS.
And I have
If we do
information
that, how do we start that? Here?
right here, and that's why I brought it today to the committee. Brian had asked me to bring it, and I.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry if I interrupted.
Oh, I just. Yep. So take this home, read it. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Give me a call, and I can. So on to Dana's question regarding. Does anybody have any questions on the report as it looks? Usually, I put these in your mailbox, so you're not spending all the time looking at this and you get through them quickly. But if you have any questions, let me know. Okay. So on to the emergency, the EMS, volunteer firefighter and EMS exemption. If you look on the back page, if you pull that out on the listing we just created, you don't have one? So anyways, on the back is a listing, and that's what I'd like to talk about briefly today. And get the board's feelings on this. We have some towns that have enacted the new exemption. What I ask is that we kind of be uniform with this exemption going forward, since it is new. You'll see the other the towns that have enacted it so far are, a majority of them are the 2-year criteria where the firefighter or volunteer EMS must be enrolled 2 active years, where they receive a 10% discount off their taxes. And that percentage is based on the residential portion of their property. Okay. And then the lifetime members is actually written in the law that it'd be 20 years with a 10% decrease. Okay, that's how the law is written. So hopefully we wouldn't want to change that at all. Okay. I really can't give you an impact right now as we sit here. We are working on the current tentative assessment rules for the assessors. I do see there are a couple exemptions in Hartford that have been put on the roll for this year, but I really don't see anything else on the roll yet in any of the towns. And timing could be an issue with this because the timing of when this law was enacted, when the towns got the information out, when they passed it, and whether the volunteers were able to get an exemption into the local assessor for them to apply. Some of them may be looking at, well, right now, currently they can get a reduction on their income tax. The current reduction on their income tax right now is $250. Will their tax savings be more than the $250? Again, in legislation, they're thinking of increasing that $250 to $500. I know that the Fire Association is trying maybe to eventually push that to 1,000, is what I've seen in a presentation. So this is an ever-changing thing. You may have a lot of people sign up, you may not have anybody sign up. But it is out there if the board wants to bring it to the board. Yeah.
I had heard that there was discussion at the state level of allowing both.
There is,
exemption
yes. Yep,
the town.
and that is one of the things that is being talked about, is allowing both. And some families, in some households, you may have two volunteers and they both can get the exemption. But they are talking about allowing them to get both the exemption and the credit on their income tax. Yep. The certificates, the fire companies are supposed to supply certificates to your assessors. So if your town has opted in, the fire companies are supposed to supply that. And they're also talking about right now, no renewal date, as long as the people or the volunteers are still on the certificates that the assessors are receiving from the volunteer EMS or firefighters, they're entitled to continue to get that. They won't need to renew it every year based on their participation.
Doesn't that depend upon the language of each town's local law?
It could, if you put it in your local law.
As ours says that they need to every year have something they show the assessor
Right.
from the fire company.
And that would be the listing from the certification from the fire company saying these are all of our members that have 2+ years on.
We left our law purposely vague in case the state does allow both the income credit and the exemption. We left it vague enough so that would be allowed.
Yeah, like I said, it's ever changing. Ever since this came into play, there's been changes throughout it. So
Right now, you can't do both.
right now you can't do both as it sits right now. And a lot of people, if you're only going to get an exemption off the town portion of your taxes, it might be more worthwhile for them to get the income tax credit. But if they can get, if the schools opt in, the villages opt in, the town and the county all opt in, they'd probably be saving more unless they up the savings on, and again, that's on the residential portion of the property. So if you have somebody that has a big farm or something like that, and they have 300 acres, this is based on residential purpose, kind of like other exemptions that we have out there.
On the EMS side of that, it contradicts itself in one regard, because it says that employees, if you're employed with the rescue squad and EMS, you're not entitled to it.
Right.
But it also employs, it also says if you're volunteer, some of the fire and rescue squads they pay them, but you also have a mandatory volunteer tax.
Right.
So where does that come into play? Kind of contradicts each
So they're going to have to find out, are these actually volunteer or are they being paid?
You shouldn't be.
They're doing
volunteering
both. If
for
you
the-
can't be
shouldn't be
doing.
volunteering for the same company you're paid with.
Well, that's not happening.
Well, I'm telling you that it's gonna cause them payroll problems, things of epic proportion.
Well, it's been going on for quite a while.
But they may be paid in one town and volunteer in another.
Right.
And as long as they're volunteering in the town that they reside in, then that's,
Or they work for the EMS and volunteer for the fire department.
yeah, oh yeah, yep.
Lifetime members.
Yeah.
A lot of these houses are dual with spouses.
Mhm.
Does that stay if the spouse dies as a member of the fire?
Yes, surviving spouse can receive that.
If you pass.
If you pass, it, yeah,
Right.
yeah, I mean, if it's enacted, yes, that's how it works, that's part of the law, yes. And I am not sure on the wording on that, because I know for a veteran, it's unmarried surviving spouse, and I have not seen that in, is it unmarried? Okay, unmarried, surviving spouse, so.
I have a comment about Sam's question about the EMS. Because I asked about Argyle EMS. And most EMS companies, they do not work for EMS. They work for some employment agency that then comes back and contracts with the EMS. Like all Argyle workers don't work for Argyle EMS. They work for, was it Chamber or Upper Dix Avenue?
Their staff needs.
They work for them.
I know in Fort Anne doesn't work that way. I know in Fort Anne, they belong to the EMS, have their own employees, they hire those people. They work there, they moonlight, they work someplace else, they don't necessarily work for one. But they also have within their thing, if you're going to be an employee, you have to do X number of actual volunteer hours that you don't get paid for.
So-
How to get away with it, that's.
So I'm bringing it to the committee to see if you want to move it on to finance to discuss it more,
I'll make that.
what do you want to do?
Moved by Dana, seconded by Dave. Any further discussion?
Anything we do would not take effect until
She gets.
next March, right? If their tax status date as of March 1st, 2024.
Right.
Which we pass a law now.
Which would be January of 2025 tax bill.
Right.
Right, yeah, it has to be done between now and March 1 of 2024.
It's a taxable status date. of March.
Yep. So we have plenty of time. I mean, you have plenty of time to do this, but
Matt?
But typically, if you add your town and county tax rate together, it's about $10 a thousand, give or take. So you gotta have a $250,000 house or more to get this exemption. Unless you live in a village and they opt in, or a school opt in. Villages are what? $8 to $20 a thousand, and schools can be anywhere from $15 to $30 a thousand. So the effect would be if the schools opted in, these people could save a lot of money. We should do this anyway, but it's probably gonna have a negligible effect.
and I have not.
It's compounding with all the different districts.
And I haven't heard too much from the schools. What I'm getting from the schools now is more schools want to opt in for the veterans exemption. I've got 2 schools that have asked me to compile the data to go include the veterans exemption, but nobody's contacted us.
Jim?
Another factor to consider is that we surveyed the 4 fire departments in the contract. And over 50% of the LTO firefighters rent.
Right. Same way.
Do we know if the ones that opted in made it by March 1st to go on next year's, or what? Because when I understood it, the state had to recognize them, and even if you passed them, it was whether the state recognized them or not.
Everybody that I've got has got a local law prior to March 1.
And the state did recognize them by March 1, I guess that was a concern. at the time.
I have not heard where they didn't.
The
I mean,
law,
the
our
laws-
law says
Local laws
immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So when we file with the Secretary of State, I don't think that means the same thing as they finally process it. I don't really know what that means. I think as soon as they receive it, stamp it received, it's effective. So we did ours, so this upcoming school tax will be the very first one. It's applied to, but it won't
It'll be
be.
your town,
school,
it'll be
it
your
won't
town
be-
account.
if
It
the
won't be
school
a
doesn't do it, so
school
it's-
doesn't do it, yeah.
So it'll be January.
And we only had one person even ask,
Yeah,
and then he figured the numbers out. So nobody's applied for it.
and especially if the numbers go up, when they're talking about increasing the income tax credit. It's a good,
If they allow both.
right, they
And
allow
that's,
both,
isn't
and
it
then,
direct payment?
what's that?
That's direct payment cash as opposed to a reduction in your taxes.
I do not
Right.
know, I'm not an income
And that's-
tax, I would imagine you
and
claim it
that's
on your
right.
income tax as a credit,
It's credit.
credit on your
On your
income
taxes.
tax.
I don't know how you get a check for credit.
Well, I mean.
When you're filing your income tax, it's part of that, yeah.
Check the start now.
Dana?
And can I go back to the.
Yeah.
So in here you have the assessment budget. Later in the book, we have general assessment.
Yep.
We get a determination. essentially, of per parcel cost.
Yeah.
It's simply taking the total budget, divided by the number of parcels.
Pretty much, yes. Yep, some of them have clerks, some of them don't.
So I know Fort Ann, Sam, I know you guys I think you use the county assessment.
Yes.
process, right? Is that why it's 0 under personal service?
Yes.
I thought there were other towns that were also doing it. Why would they not be 0?
Just Cambridge.
Maybe they just have that in their point, in their personnel line. This is off the town budgets.
Yeah.
So maybe they have that on their.
We could have it in ours as a line of what we pay.
Okay.
The assessor.
Matt, so the one that's been kind of popped, the Granville's really low. You guys are on 2 bucks a parcel. Is that, what's it, have you done the averages?
The averages, yes.
like,
Yeah, I have the averages.
What's a rough per parcel?
Oh, approximately 12. I mean, that's kind of, yeah. Some are more, some are less. It all depends on the number of parcels. It also depends on a time allotted for the works in the town.
So just because it doesn't say 0 in the personal service, doesn't mean it's not.
Correct. I mean, I do have that breakdown, but
Well, we often get questions about
Yeah.
the cost for assessment. I
Yeah.
would say per parcel.
Right.
We're actually
If you're looking-
below the average of the county.
Right.
Am I right when I say that? If I just take our budget, divide it by the number of parcels, we're around 11 bucks, I think.
yeah, I think you probably are. I haven't looked. And some are more, you know,
Yeah.
some are
Just about.
quite a bit more.
And some are real low, like Granville's really low.
Well, it's misleading. We have a clerk. To be an assessor's clerk, that's a civil service status. We have to require that and go through all that. We have a clerk who assists our assessor and assists our ordinance officer and assists our planning board. Her numbers kind of get lost in it's basic clerk, so would we have a little higher cost
If all those numbers were.
Yeah. So,
I would just pull the budgets, all your town budgets, we get them from Deb and we just. input this.
She only sees the portion of the budget 2 and 5 years of service.
Yeah, two, yeah.
So do we have a thought on whether, do you have a choice to make in your local law between the minimum being between 2 and 5 years?
Like I said, it'd be nice if it was uniform.
Are you back to the fire?
Yeah, I'm back to the, right, so in the law, it says the municipality has, the municipality, the governing body shall establish a minimum service requirement for each applicant between 2 years of service and 5 years of service.
And if you look at the listing that I've given you,
So-
4 of the towns have 2.
I can leave it blank and then we can have that discussion.
I think it should be 2. I think we should make it the most liberal we can.
What did he say?
how about generous? How about generous? How about generous?
So I'm using old language before it was co-opted by the Democrats.
Okay. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
So can we make it?
that Dan, you want a motion from Dan for that?
I
Well,
already made a motion.
I'll leave it blank and we can have.
Was your motion 2 years? Dan? Was your motion 2 years?
Yes, we got a motion. I'll second the motion.
There you go.
For 2 years. Moved by Dana, seconded by Dan for 2 years. Any further discussion?
Yes, it's up to 10%.
And
Maximum 10%.
Like I said, it would be nice if we could keep everything in.
Dana wants it 2 years, 10%, right? Dana?
Yes, thank you, Matt.
I read your
My
mind.
clerk.
2 and 10.
2 and 10. Makes Laura happy because.
The most- 2 and 10.
Laura,
All right,
Yes.
go ahead, Sam.
what about the town that went to 5%? What do we do with that?
We were 5 years, not
5 years, okay, gotcha.
5 years. They passed their laws however they want.
We had
They're fine. They can go from 2 to
We had
5.
a fireman on our board who suggested we do 5. and so we
Yeah.
Okay.
had to
So-
right through that.
This exemption gets applied after all the other ones are applied. So this is the last one in the line, right? The assessor. So after she's
Yes,
taken off
pretty
the
much.
value, all the other exemptions.
Any
off the
ag
value.
exemptions, any an aged exemption, actually it's ag and then veterans and then aged and disabled with limited income. And then the last one will be this.
Well, why would ag even be involved? Because it's only on.
No, when you're taking your value off the property, when you're taking your exemptions off, that's how they're taken off.
There's an order
Get your-
form. So
an
if a
order
person
for
has
them.
More than one.
Yep.
So if a person has, so say you have an old farmer that was a war veteran, first thing is going to be his ag exemption, then it's going to be the aged one, I think you
Yep.
said, and then the
Yep.
veteran one afterwards, and then if they're a part-time fireman, then after that.
So
It's
it
just the
calculates different, it calculates a number, takes one off, calculates a new number, does a percentage, takes that off. But that's way too much conversation.
It's a
I
procedural.
think it's question that I was gonna say, so farm agricultural versus residential, well, people are residents on a farm, so they'd be eligible.
Yes, they would be eligible. If you have a house on a farm,
Your
but
ag exemption isn't on your residence, is it?
it's on your parcel, it's on your
Right.
property.
Right, but
Right.
not on the.
Right, but it
It's
reduces
just-
your total taxable value.
Right, it's
That
just
I
a
agree.
procedural order.
Okay.
Then Laura gets into shapes, but the entire farm is not the house. And each shape, each part of the shape is taxed a little bit different. House is taxed differently than the rest of the farm.
Or it doesn't get into any.
No, your assessment.
No. It's all in your assessment. Okay, any other further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Yeah.
Opposed? Carried.
We're voting over
So
here.
now we got now I can take back and get this.
You can go on Hartford's website.
Go ahead, guys, you're up
Plagiarize as well.
next.
I already emailed everybody.
Yeah, it's a good way to
We
go.
Yeah,
need
but
a
I wanted to
second
wait and see
chair.
what the county was doing. I want to mirror the county.
They don't want to be a leader. You want to be the one out front and in charge.
It was to help people. I'll gladly email you all our local laws. I already paid my attorney once.
Are they online?
Huh?
Are they online?
So they're online.
I saw your email. I just thought I wanted to wait and see what the county did.
And so we had two people that applied, and they should have gone for the credit.
Now, Madison's got to go out and deal with it. Well, somebody's got to deal with yours, because you're not the same county.
No, 5 years is when you submit to the assessment sheet that you're a fireman. You can't become eligible for that sheet until you're 5 years.
Right.
But it doesn't really screw up. Connection's still 10%.
Right, we gotta wait 5 years. We only have to wait 2, but you know. Give you time to get your. Before you come in. It takes that
One's on with the on-demand, one's without
Well, the fire company writes a letter and says these are the tax numbers, and then they list. 2 years, 5 years, 20 years, we have to figure out who's the lifetime. Lifetime, have 20 years.
Again, we want to have more relatives, so that's.
But if they, we don't know the burden on the fire company.
Now we're.
Yeah, yeah.
Straight down.
Yes, it is. That's the form. That's the state form. The fire guys got to bring it.
Right, but the burden. Not the fire, not the burden.
Fire department do return when you have a member that becomes an.
Okay, please direct your attention up here. Dan and Dana. Hey, guys.
So before we get started on the papers, I just handed out, I'll bring an update on a couple of things. Yesterday, the state legislature approved the changes to the assembly districts, and that bill is now on the governor's desk to be signed. There's no significant change to Washington County. The assembly districts will remain the same. The 107th will be White Creek, Cambridge, and Easton. The 113th will be Greenwich, Fort Edward, and the village of Hudson Falls, and the rest of Washington County is the 114th. So hopefully that's so.
District.
So there won't be any redistricting for us. We're just the way we have been. It's going to stay that way. For June, there will be a primary in Washington County. 2 towns are having primary. They get out of lovely town of Kingsbury and lovely town of Hartford. So there will be Republican primaries in those 2 towns. And then our old brothers in the Conservative Party have decided to, in the 4th JG and the representatives, to have too many people. So the Conservative Party and the 114th and the Conservative Party and the 113th are going to have a primary
Delegates.
for delegates to their convention.
Alternate, is it alternate delegate?
both. So we'll be running out almost a complete run out of machines for the primary in June because of that.
What are those, what districts were they again?
The 113th and 114th,
So,
Just for the conservative.
just the Conservative Party.
but not every town will have that, because not every town will have one conservative.
Well, all of the towns in 113th and 114th have conservative registered voters. For instance, in Dresden has 6, Hampton has 3. And we will roll out a machine from 6 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night on that primary day. For
This
those
is-
voters.
Tom, this is actually for the judicial.
Yes, additional delegates and alternates in the Conservative Party. Washington County only has less than 800 registered Conservative Party members. Yes,
There's no way to have a paper ballot for 6 people to vote. I think we can count those 6.
Is there early voting?
yes,
So wouldn't it behoove supervisor in those towns to say, hey, conservative, if you're gonna vote, get your ass over there. Vote ahead of time. You'll know that there's none left because you already got 3 and 6.
Yep.
And you haven't ever roll them out.
yeah.
Or you go date, get those 3 people over here.
No, you still have to have the.
It'll save us a ton of money. It'll save it, right? It'll save
You
us-
still have to have even all 3.
The idea is correct, except you can't do that because if somebody moves in the town and they're conservative, they have a right to vote by affidavit ballot.
Who's moving to Hampton?
You still have to have the poll site
You have to have a
open,
poll site open.
in case someone comes in and wants to go after
You
this.
still have to have early voting open. Yes, Jim.
What is this gonna cost the county for?
Putting a price
Yes.
Roughly,
4 inspectors,
Delegates to.
5:30 in the morning, 9:30 at night.
How much, I'm sorry, I was being.
Well, we have to, each poll site, and you have to, so single districts, 4 inspectors, 5:30 in the morning, 9:30 at night. We have to, you know, we're looking at,
It's a real conservative approach.
well, we do have a history of this happened a number of years ago.
Jim, just so you know what brought this about is, okay, Democrats from down within the Schenectady County area came up with postings in Washington County. Got delegates here to run and support the candidates that your party wants to put up. So that's what drove this expense.
He had to put
It is, it is.
To make it even more interesting, there was a number of years ago, we had a on-demand ballot in the Conservative Party in Washington County, where it was just a conservative primary, and there was one town where nobody showed up.
Well, that could happen again.
It could happen
That could
again,
happen within.
Yeah.
because people are gonna vote on this and they really don't know what the fourth judicial delegates do. It's one of those things where we do an election in the Republican Party to send these people to the convention to pick a judge candidate, and most of us have no idea what that is. So we are also going to an outside vendor to print ballots for this, something that we had agreed to before as well.
Dana, do you still have a question?
He just answered that for judicial convention.
But did we come up with what it was gonna cost us to do this primary?
About 20,000,
somewhere in
about that.
Give or take a couple thousand.
Yep. So the 3 towns that won't have anything will be the 107th, that would be Cambridge, White Creek, and Easton, not have.
Sounds good to me.
Point drop, there we go.
All right. We want to express a thank you for those who were able to attend last week to see the demonstration with the heart machines that we're interested in purchasing. What you have in front of us are 2 different pieces of paper. One says full demand printers on the top. The other one says without demand printers. Let's start with the left one. This is the worst case scenario. Most expensive, and if you look at the bottom, it says 922,491 ducks. And that is if we roll out and buy the machines that we need with some adjustments, which I'm going to tell you in a minute. And we get the on-demand printers. What that means is somebody comes in and this gentleman signs the iPad and the printer right here prints his ballot. Okay. The other one is he comes in, he signs the iPad. We tell him to go down there and get a printed ballot at some table. That's the difference. Some of the differences is that those ballots cost us what?
40, well, we got the two quotes and Fort Orange come in at 48 cents a ballot, which was what we figured. And we deal with Fort Orange now. They still do our transfer cards, our acknowledgement cards, confirmations. So we want to stick with Fort Orange. They're at 48 cents. Phoenix Graphics was at 52 cents a ballot, which they're out of, what did I say? Syracuse area. And Fort Orange is right on, in Albany. They're right on Sand Creek Road.
So talking about ballots versus what it would cost us to have somebody print them versus the paper coming out of the printer at the poll site, those pieces of paper are 8 cents each. So there's a huge difference in cost between having somebody print them for us and having it print on demand. Also, when we have somebody else print them, we have to print 110%. When we have it on demand, we print the exact number that we need. Of course, we have some extra paper as well in stock. So your costs, there's this huge savings in costs after you get the printers, but you have to pay for the printers to save that cost over 5 years. Okay?
A lot less waste and a lot less storage.
So if you look at the full demand printers, we have on here at the top, you see the number 50 in quantity. We're reducing that request to 45.
That's the actual voting machine.
So that's a cost of $30,500 to take it off that 922. First of all.
So how many districts do we have?
We have 50 districts in the county.
So we're reducing them.
So we have that.
Districts or poll sites?
50 poll sites.
That's the difference. More districts or poll sites.
No.
Let's get it
No,
straight.
50 districts,
50 districts, how many poll sites?
23.
23 poll sites.
So we're reducing the number of machines we're looking for.
Yes.
Yeah, because we went back and looked at what we had. So that quote was 50 machines at first. So we figured we could cut back, if we had to cut back to 45, a full rollout, we went back to our numbers. And on a full rollout, we would roll out 41 machines. So if we cut back 5 machines, that would give us 4 spares.
Granted, every poll site gets 1. There are certain poll sites that get 2, and there's a couple poll sites that get 3.
We're gonna have 3.
Greenwich, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And Greenwich is going to have 3 machines. Kingsbury 1, 2, and 9 is going to have at least 2. Kingsbury 4, 3, 4, 5 will have at least 2,
So,
and so forth and so on, based on volume and based on people voter turnout.
I have it right.
But when you talk about Hebron, you're going to have 1. Hampton, you're going to talk 1. Yes, Dan.
Are there any districts that have more than one poll location?
Yes. Cambridge, for instance. No, I'm sorry, not Cambridge. White Creek.
Could we also save money by condensing that to one location?
We could. Salem's in the
That's
same
where I'm-
situation.
Not where it is right now.
And the situation is that Shushan thinks that they're a country all by themselves, and so doesn't the Hamlet of White Creek.
But why couldn't we condense to one location? Is it state law that prevents us, or could you say you wanted to do that?
No, in the past, it's been based on a number of voters, registered voters in districts, and that's what we've had in the past. To answer your question, District 5 in Greenwich has less than 600 registered voters, and it's in the highway garage, and we thought that it would be prudent to move that to the Greenwich, to the hall, parish hall in Greenwich, because it had the capacity to do 4 districts, and that saved us buying a machine in that place. We just moved Fort Edward Town Hall, districts 2 and 3, up to our building. Yes, so we can consolidate. We've looked at some of them to consolidate, yes.
Yeah, we consolidated, we're down to 34 now. We were at 36 before, so we have consolidated a few.
White Creek, the town hall isn't big enough to consolidate District 3 to. It's a small place.
Yeah, the smaller poll sites we
We
keep.
had another poll site at a firehouse and we wanted to do it. And I made a decision and I got dope slapped But in the end, it's more efficient, it works great, people are fine with it, but it's the idea of it's all political. You're taking out of my area, moving it there. Well, listen, my father voted there in 1903, kind of voted. And it's all, you just gotta get them over the hump. And it was a lot of turmoil, but once you got there, it saved you a whole bunch of, yes. And Shushan would be the same idea, right? You moved it out of Shushan?
I'm surprised anybody actually would care.
Oh my God, you kidding about their identity and where they
I
are?
tried doing that.
Try to district three out of like great.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's all.
Oh, they're gonna-
Well, they knew they wanted
So what we have done, some consolidation, we've done some reduction on how many machines are needed in each place. We're going from a machine that did only so many ballots and so many voters to machines that can take more. So in the future, if we wanted to try to consolidate Shushan to Salem and bite that bullet, we could. But not today.
Yeah, I read all the stories about voter suppression and it's really hard to live with.
And Salem did too.
Yes,
So, to their the credit is 3 is now 2.
3 is now 2. Yeah.
And White Hall used to be 5, we consolidated that down to 3 districts. When I first started, White Hall was 5 districts.
With another 3 all in one spot.
How about Fort Edward?
Fort Edward is all in one spot now in our building. All
Just in
5.
your building?
Yeah, believe it or not, you had districts 2 and 3 in Fort Everett in the village. And District 5, which is way down there in the country, was voting up here. So we said, why not bring them all?
Yeah, we moved 3 and 4.
Big
Well,
difference.
we're all up in.
Yeah.
Whatever can do it in one location, Cambridge can also.
Cambridge does do it.
Cambridge does.
We didn't hear
White
any-
Creek.
White Creek is.
White Creek is stretched.
But is it just because it's in the village of Cambridge? Is
The
that
village
is that the reason
location
why?
isn't really big enough to move it in.
Oh, this 1 and 2 is just small, we can't fit
The
a
town
third.
hall.
The building can't fit another. district.
And we did look at some other locations in White Creek. One was a possibility that fell through. We're still looking. The firehouse, we may go back to the new firehouse. They had some concerns. We may go back and answer those concerns. We'll see. And then there would be enough space to consolidate. I picked on Hebron because I'm from there. Hebron had 2 at one time, and they consolidated into 1 long time ago. And those people that live up by West Pollitt, 8-9 miles to get to the poll site, and they haven't complained for years about it, that I know. Jim Nelson drove a long way to be able to vote.
Maybe back in the day when you had horse and buggy, it was more concerned, but. Right, we get on with the scooter.
So back on track, that number, we're gonna hack off for those 5 machines, $30,500 off that number. And then the second thing is, the BMDs, these are the machines that we use for handicap accessible voting, right? We have to have them, 1 in each poll site. Over the last 13 years that I've been there, they've only been used 6 times for that length of time, but we have to have them by law. And when we started to consolidate districts, we didn't need as many. So we're lowering our estimate on that to 24 BMDs. We have 23 poll sites. And that's hacking off another $10,600. Okay,
Yeah, we're gonna knock 2 off that.
How much is that? I'm sorry.
10,600.
Are they part of the 50?
No, they're a separate machine from the regular voting machine.
They're not on this list over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got the 50.
Oh,
and then
the
you got
Verity
26.
accessible booth, oh, that's the booth,
Up at the top, you got the 50 voting machines, it's gonna go to 45,
right,
and then you got 26 machines, it's gonna go to 23.
okay.
Verity touch writer, it's the BMD.
So here's the biggie, okay?
Quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
So in case of the other machine is down.
They can go vote on that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And that's one of the advantages of these machines. If the regular voting machine breaks, the regular voter can vote on the BMD machine.
It's a slower process.
It still can be done,
So once you put it next one.
yes.
Is it 24 or 23?
23.
No, we're cutting 2 off that, we're gonna go down to
That's
24.
why.
No, 24, I'm sorry, 26 to 24. Yes, you're right.
Well, no, I put down what you said, then I changed it to what Tom said.
Yeah.
Now I'll put it back to what you said.
24. So here's the biggie. If you look down at that bottom line where it says $186,215, this company put what the annual software and support fee is for 5 years. We do not have to pay that in advance on this bid. We only have to pay 1 year, okay? So when you calculate that out, you can take off that number, $148,972. It does not have to be paid when we purchase these. They do have to be paid on an annual basis, though.
So you can either pay it in that one lump sum or just pay it
Or pay it annually.
for the 5 years.
Okay, so your bottom purchase price for everything that we would like to get is $732,419.
If we make those deductions. that we
Yes.
just-
If we choose just to pay the first year, this is the set rate. There's not additional escalators that are in there. This is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there are.
That's-
It's right on the back.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
year two. Okay.
It keeps going up and
Yeah,
up.
right. There's escalators in it, but I'm saying we choose to just pay the first year, we're still locked in these prices.
Yes.
They're not gonna go up.
Yes. Okay, so that's a purchase price. We go to the next page.
That's the leasing price. the second one.
What was your price? 732.
That's the way.
This page right here, one of us like this. We can lease these machines instead of purchasing. We give you 2 different grid prices for leasing. One is for 10 years, the other is for 7 years. The nice thing about this is that we don't have to put out a whole bunch of money to purchase them right off the bat. We do not know if it's a lease to purchase yet. We're still trying to find that out, okay? In the end, because there is a 5.69% rate on this, we'll end up paying more in the long run on these 2 plans than we would if we purchased them. A lot more. But we could, instead of putting out $700,000, we could get these machines in the first year for $123,500.
I understand, but what happens if some of these machines go, they're still in lease,
That's the backdrop of the lease.
just pick a number on my head, we still have to pay for those all the way through the lease term.
Yes.
Plus, we would have to replace those.
Yes.
And escalated cost, wherever it is, I get to pay 6% interest on anything.
Yes. It was just an offer as another option. Yes, ma'am.
Well, but after talking to Mr. Van Ness from Warren County, they lease the machines because they see rapidly changing technology. And that these machines could be obsolete in 4 years, really. The new technology comes in, they can be more efficient, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Gives them a lot more flexibility. And the, guessing, 12 to 15 years maximum life of these things?
That's what the machines are we have now.
Yeah, so if you had a 10-year lease, then you're gonna get new machines as opposed to keeping them an extra 5 years, of which the technology is 10 years old, which could be irrelevant. So I mean, I know the 6%, Dave, but it's worth investigating from a cash flow standpoint. It's not a bad way to go.
The other thing too is we're going to talk about doing this without the printers in a minute, okay? Down the road, you're going to find that the state's probably going to mandate that we have these printers. Not yet, but this is what they tend to do.
Could be the next rolling number.
So based on Matt's point, if we sign a lease for 10 years, are we required to pay that? Just because we go to new technology doesn't mean we get out of this lease.
We'd have to see what the contract that they throw at us, which Roger would review for us before we ever sign it.
So, these numbers reflect the total of the 922,491. So would these numbers change due to the?
There were 732. Will these lease numbers come down?
There's possible, there's a couple other things they're looking at for us to see if we can reduce it some more.
They should.
Brian, due to just the actual purchases. One more question.
Yep.
Would you have to enter into a 10-year contract, or could you do it as an annual contract?
Don't know. We could ask.
Well, they do a seven.
They listed at 7 and 10.
7 and 10,
Seven
two
and
options.
10.
But when you look at the buy one, the first 5 years were included, you're taking that off, but the second 5 are still in there, you probably would still have to pay. So there's not a lot of difference in price, 5% or whatever it is. There's not a lot of
Yeah.
difference because
You're
they
six
keep
months.
escalating it. You're averaging about 45,000 a year each the last 5 years. That's a lot of money too. So, and
By the way, what about maintenance? If we lease it, they maintain it, they take care of it, something goes wrong, they're covering everything, we buy it, we own it, we gotta take care of it, right?
Not necessarily, you know, you got that licensing and support.
Well, that's for the first
But you-
5 years if we buy it.
For the first
outright,
5
it's
years.
covered
The
for
second 5 years, we gotta. they gotta come in and
I'm
take
sure
care
they
of
all
it.
offers a contract to do it. But that's 5 years out.
so just some rough calculations. To do it as a 10-year lease. Purchase price is $922.
732.
I'm just trying to use
Yeah,
use
it's just
numbers for the comparison in price. You'll be paying almost $300,000 more in interest over those 10 years.
Gotcha.
I know it changed with 722, but I don't have lease payments. Well, it doesn't include that. That's what I was pointing out. It doesn't include the last 5 years of the maintenance,
Correct.
Right,
which is another 200,000, so it's about $100,000.
it's not disclosed in that number.
Yeah, it's funny the way it's written. On the other hand, this is the only one that's certified so far,
Yes.
and we don't know what the prices are gonna be on the others if and when they get certified.
Well, let me tell you a history of this. We started getting quotes on this last fall. It goes up every time they give us a new one.
Well, they do, but we still don't know the competitive.
Well, I thought Dominion was approved.
Dominion has machines approved that are called ice machines, and we really don't like them.
And Warren County had nothing but issues with the last 2 elections. And they just Warren County, they purchased 25 machines, the ice machines. They're the only other ones that are certified right
What
now.
does ICE stand for? Don't say internal combustion.
I'm not sure. That's the next, that's after, that's the ones that they have certified right now. But both general elections that they've used in the first 2 general elections after they purchased them, they had problems with both rollouts. They've already had issues both elections.
So their machines are certified, these machines are certified. The
That's it,
third
so
company
far.
is called Clear Ballot. And we do like their stuff, but they're not certified yet, probably won't be till June. So this takes us into it. We're gonna still get to this other one in a minute, but this takes us to an area where we have some offers on different deals of this. We really want to have new stuff in place in November, so we're not doing this in a presidential year, which is next year. We're gonna have a presidential primary either in April or March next year. Which means we need to get these in place, so if we can't get the new machines and can't use them in the November election, we're gonna break our teeth on this on a presidential primary, which we don't really want. It's too complicated. There's already 7 Republican candidates.
So A, you don't want to do Dominion. C, the other guy's not ready yet. So
Yes.
B, this is it. We're
Well-
stuck with this. We're not even gonna get prices from the other guys.
We have prices
Your
from the other
prices,
guys.
and they're pretty,
They're higher, they're a little bit higher than this.
they higher, no, they're about close.
They're close.
But the ballot building.
Can we see them?
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
No,
We can't come to a decision with that.
And I understand what you're saying. Yeah, we're being cornered into this, but this is the one we really like. We've tested the other one like we did the other day. They did that for us, and this is the one we would prefer to do a better job for Washington County.
Did you see the Clear Ballot one or just the ice?
no, we saw the clear ballot when they were here.
Just this one.
Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah, Hart was here, Clear Ballot has been here. They did it last spring.
David and I can't even say.
Dave, you guys did.
Now, it's Clear Ballot. Would you like that one if it was available or
If-
not as good as?
Not as good
If
as
we
this
could
one.
not get this one, that would be our next choice. Yes.
But we like this one better. Plus the ballot building, the EMS part of it, the election management system. It's like circles around the other EMS. We like
Yeah,
that a lot better.
what comes with this is the system to create and make the ballot, which is not something you see. These two over here spend hours, if not weeks, putting the ballot together. And that is an entirely different machine that you've never seen. And here's one of the good descriptions about it. On the one we have right now, you build a ballot like a pyramid to get to the final product. And I was the one who did this. We got all the way up to the end and we're testing the ballot, okay? We're listening to it on the headphones. And it didn't say Washington County because I forgot to put that into the ballot. And it has to say Washington County. What you have to do is you have to undo everything back down to that level. You put it in and then rebuild it back up to the top. Took quite a bit of time, but because you've already done it, you can do it fairly quickly, but it's one of those functions where you just can't change it. This one, you can change it anywhere. The process is much more efficient, yes.
Questions is, I know that the machines have battery backups, the batteries in them. The printers also have battery backups.
Printers, no.
Well, systems out,
No, they
we
don't.
have to have UPSs for these to be able to continue voting.
Yes,
If power's out,
Power is out. There are emergency ballots that go out for that purpose.
And
we
we just
have-
have to go to emergency.
just a generator, Hebrew.
That's no different.
Lucky.
You just plug your light in there.
Just one, just one city. One generator.
There
It's
are.
really that is correct. Then we actually have a generator.
Plug it
To wait a minute, to answer, there is an emergency ballot slot on these, just like there were the other
They
machines.
just have to, just like they go to emergency ballot.
If power's out all day.
Fair amount, so we have to get a generator out there.
Sam?
Tom, I thought he asked a question about the battery, and I thought they said, yeah, it wasn't under the battery.
On the voting machine,
Voting machine
yeah,
itself,
not the print.
not the printer.
Dana?
Dan, the question.
Your lease numbers will change a little bit because you reduced your,
Yes,
so these are close, but they're actually gonna become lower.
yes.
Still
Also,
gonna be $200-300 in interest.
we're,
Still gonna be $200-300 in interest.
also there is, we understand that the Board of Elections budget doesn't have any money in it to do this right now. And one of the things that Warren County has done, and they're trying to work out with Hart, is that they put down a down payment now and put the rest of it into next year's budget. That's something that we're pursuing too, to see if they would do. The lease, what they have offered on lease, if I'm correct, they lease, if we sign a contract on a lease, we put down some interest money or a down payment, and the rest could be done after the first of the year, right?
No, when I talked to Dwayne, he said the lease, if you went the lease way, the first payment wouldn't be due
Due
until
until
after the first.
After
year,
the first of the year.
If you went the lease.
So it'll be next year's budget.
Matt?
So we discussed it at the ARPA meeting that we didn't think that these purchases would fit through that, and we talked about doing it through the capital plan, right now. So it would be a one-time big shot at the capital plan. Or it would be a built-in budget of $100,000 a year to cover this going forward. I just didn't know if you had an opinion one way or the other, from a cash flow or financial standpoint.
If you want my financial opinion, if you're gonna do it, just rip the Band-Aid off, pay cash now. Don't do a down payment, pay, just do it. You're not gonna levy for it anyway. You're going to fund balance for it no matter what you do. So if you're gonna do this program, just pay cash and do it now.
But it comes out of the capital plan, right?
The capital plan, I don't know if has enough money to fund it. You may have to send some money from general. So you're going to fund balance either way, you're not gonna levy for it. So whether you go fund balance tomorrow or in January, just do it, rip the Band-Aid off. There's no benefit to a down payment system, there's no benefit to a lease system. Just do it. If you're gonna pull the trigger on the machines, my advice would be to just pay cash and be done.
So that brings up one other thing. The rumor has it that in the governor's state budget, there's grant funds for this. We have nothing to confirm that, or nothing about how much it would entail.
Election will be over from the past budget.
Dana?
There's about $235,000 difference whether you buy printers or not.
Yes,
So if you buy the printers, and you go to test, you just print out each ballot, each party, run it through once. If you don't buy the printers, you're just gonna have to do a better job at testing. That didn't happen with Dominion because there was one drawer you never thought to test, correct? So if we don't buy the printers, save 236,000. The burden's on you guys to do a better test.
But you also gotta print 110% of all registered voters as opposed to printing exactly the number of voters. That saves a ton of money. And
I don't-
30 cents a ballot.
I can't quite believe a few sheets of paper is gonna cost you a ton.
48 cents.
48 cents.
48 cents.
Ow.
$236,000, and 236, 229 is the difference. At 48 cents a ballot, that gets you 492,144 ballots. It would take you 14.47 years to break even.
If we did not buy it.
If you don't, right, it takes you almost 15 years to make the printers worth buying. 34,000 ballots at 48,000 about 48 cents a ballot. You spend $16,000 a year in third-party printing of ballots. It would take you almost 15 years to recover the cost of the printers.
Don't forget, next year is gonna cost us between 50 and 60,000 for just ballots next year. We got two primaries and a presidential.
You said 34,000 ballots, that's very huge.
Just for the general, one election. We got we got presidential primary and regular primary.
And you're still printing ballots even if you have the printers.
Oh,
But a lot
no, I thought you meant just from Fort Orange Press.
But I mean, 48 cents a ballot, no matter how many elections you have a year.
No, if we print them ourselves, I mean, on demand.
If you have orange, print them for you at 48 cents a ballot.
Right,
You don't run into the issue that you had
right,
printing them
Right.
yourself,
Right.
right.
right?
Mhm.
And you can print 492,000 ballots at 48 cents before you break even on the printer costs.
Well, I'm
And
just
even if
saying,
you're gonna replace
next
these
year
things in
it'll
10
be
years,
like
you're not gonna
60,000.
recover the cost. That's what I can't wrap my head around.
Probably 10 years because the price of the ballot's probably gonna go up too.
Actually, they've come down. When I first got here, the premium of the balance was over 70
Well,
cents.
because that's the opposite of demand.
I don't.
Wasn't there an issue back in the good old days about storing? We had to print 120 or 110%.
Yep.
And the old ones had to be stored for 3 years.
Yeah, we gotta
Yes.
keep them for
Storage.
4 months now, or is it 4 months? We got,
It used to be 2 years, whether they were used or not.
Right,
now it's 4 months. We got to store them.
well, that's better.
Yeah.
Still, it's.
Storage
Well,
space.
if you buy the printers, it's gonna cost you so much more before you break even that the printers will be replaced probably 50% way through that. So if it's gonna take you 15 years to break even, these printers are gonna be changed out in 5, probably.
Yeah, but you've already paid for.
We shouldn't buy the printers, we should lease them.
Right? Your
Yes, you're
maintenance
right.
costs should be taking care of that.
Okay. So let's look at the second sheet.
Buy the machines, buy the scanners, lease the printers.
The issue is that those printers, you have to lease the printers for 5-year term. Because if the life of the printer is about 5 years, you have to replace the printers after the first 5 years. It's like,
No, that's an assumption. Where did you come up with that?
Yeah.
That's nonsense.
you just said, like.
The 7 to 10 years, they're saying.
Right, they're gonna take care of them in the whole
We were like,
situation.
we got these for
10-year.
Well, turn this back.
It's like printers, that's what we're talking about.
Got printers that I've had in my office for at least 7 or 8 years.
If you lease, do they take care of the printer issues?
Yeah, if the printer breaks down. it's-
That's the one advantage I see about leasing.
So let's jump the other way with the other sheet, okay? The one that says
Without
without
that.
demand printers. You can take off on that bottom line, 686,262. You can take off the same number of things, the 160,000,
No, that's.
the 10,600. You take off the 30,500. And the number now for
That would be
For the-
520.
license to support is 120,457. It's a little different than the other one. And you get a final number of 524,705. Close. Yeah, 524,000 plus. So the difference is no printers. We get all the ballots from an outside vendor. The inspectors have a little more responsibility, making sure in a primary, they're handing out the right ballot. in the right place to the right voter. There's less machinery involved to transport to and from the poll sites, less setup because there's no printers involved.
Melissa?
I think that was one of the selling points, if I remember correctly, from Hart, that day they came into the demonstration.
Yep.
Was that you know that the correct ballot is going to the right
Yes.
person, and they
With
said,
the on-demand, right?
right, with
It's
the
as-
on-demand print.
It's as easy as this. Let's see if I can get this right. With the on-demand printers, somebody comes in and signs the iPad. We have a wand. Wand scans a barcode, the printer prints it. The barcode of the voter, the printer prints their ballot.
So they get the exact ballot.
They get the exact ballot that they requested.
So the inspector's not looking around for a ballot.
Then there's a barcode on my ballot.
No, nothing on that, just brings
No, there's a
up,
barcode associated with my ballot.
but
Somewhere.
there's nothing on the
There's
ballot.
nothing on the ballot.
No,
Nothing on the
it just
ballot.
brings up their, it just brings up their.
Just so you can't get a second ballot.
Yes, absolutely.
Did somebody use that barcode to find out how I voted?
No,
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 of
the
course not.
barcode is used to know that you
There's
did vote.
nothing to do with
Going
the
back.
ballot.
But each barcode for every voter is gonna be different.
Yes,
Yes.
just like it is on your
It's
license.
just- it's just your voter ID number.
Somebody could.
It's off the back of your license.
No, they could. They just could
I
only.
don't want Earl to find out how I voted. Jeez,
Doesn't make a difference.
Earl could get into that and hack us and figure this out.
Earl's gonna come in and ask you anyway. doesn't he?
Everybody has to know how you voted.
Okay,
So, Earl is a Democrat.
next question.
I think for 200, basically a difference of 200,000. You're now talking, it's more convenient if you spend $200,000 more.
That'd be
It's more,
more.
200,000 is,
It's more accurate. Still got the same cost.
no, why would it be more accurate? The old way is just as accurate.
No, they just, some more mistakes can happen.
That's because the inspector has to look around, make sure you get the, I mean, come on.
There's
Because
human error.
people no longer have to work. Honestly,
Brian?
So I'd like to break the numbers down more when we, by the time we get to finance, and that's what I'd really like to do. But I think you'll find the price of all the ballots, I don't think that's gonna be as much of a difference as you think. And before, when we bought things, the first 5 years you have to pay for the first 5 years, I guess, the maintenance if you're buying them. The second 5, you don't have to, and because it escalates so much, I'm not sure that you would be cheaper to roll the dice and pay them to come fix them when they need fixing. I don't know, but there's probably some savings there too, because you gotta remember they're rolling this out for a lot of number of votes. We're not a huge county where we vote a huge amount of people, so maybe ours lasts a little longer too. Some of that we'll know in the first 5 years of using them, but there's probably a little better way we can look at this if we break it down. But I want the actual numbers and what they're actually proposing when we bring it to finance. This, when we work off this, let's work at the actual number we want.
This is part of what Brian said, back when we had, when we first got the Dominion machines and their 5-year warranty ran out, we didn't purchase the warranty and support program. We paid per à la carte to have them do it, and we saved money by doing that. Machines just didn't break down that much. I mean, break down, not malfunction or whatever, but if I could break down what parts actually broke. And we did have somebody, that arm that held up the screen, took it right off. They replaced it. It was cheaper.
So
Sam?
whichever way we go, if we have a professional company print our ballots, or we have a machine print our ballots, that should eliminate either way, we'll probably had this past election.
Yes.
With all kinds of ballot problems.
And that was what the main request was when he came to us, that we don't want to happen what happened last November. This is a solution to that.
Terry, do you have any insight you want to contribute on the printers?
Sure. One thing I guess I would mention is you guys have talked about, after 5 years, not to continue the hardware support. Just to keep in mind, there's likely software support in here too that would have to be continued. So you wouldn't be, the yearly maintenance would be less, but not completely extinct. Because you have to maintain the software support to get the updates, for them to keep writing the updates, et cetera, which you certainly wouldn't necessarily need the hardware warranty. So on-demand printing, the printers, I would say a printer life expectancy, 7-ish years. just to give you an idea of what I would recommend in terms of replacing the hardware. They do have mechanical pieces in them. You know, they will need ongoing things like toner and those kind of things as you're doing the printer. From all the solutions that I've seen, if you folks do decide you want to move forward with a ballot printing solution, this is, in my opinion, the best solution that exists. It's completely disconnected from the network. It's you know, standalone. It's just a really beautiful product. It's all built in the United States. You know, it's not just assembled here. It's actually manufactured and built here, which I thought was a really nice thing for the manufacturer. I was personally really impressed with the manufacturer, their responsiveness, how long they've done elections. So if you decide you want to do ballot printing, I think that is the decision that you all would have to make. This would definitely be the solution that I would go with or recommend. I know that I have a lot else. If you have any technical questions, I can certainly answer them. I think it's a great product.
Dana,
I know that there's a problem with printers, if you don't use them very often, the ink dries out, jets dry out. Now, these printers are only gonna be used in June, November.
So these
Are
are,
we gonna have a problem between from November to the next June because everything's dried out?
so they're laser, not inkjet, so you won't really have that issue. The toner cartridges could just be shaken and they'll be the same there, but with an inkjet printer, then the heads will dry out, you're correct. And if they were inkjet, you'd have an issue.
These will be laser.
These are laser printers.
Put you in charge of shaking.
So question A is, we're not gonna look at any other vendors, this is the vendor that we're gonna look at, and we're gonna go this way.
Well,
Is that the consensus?
That's the one that we.
We're certainly gonna look at
They're
Clear
hoping
Ballot. We're
that's the-
still looking at Clear Ballot and what they have to offer as they get, until they get approved, yes. But they're not certified.
So we're gonna postpone any decision until after their certification in June, and
We
we're
don't
doing.
want to, no.
I'm asking the question, what's our timetable here, and what a decision has to be made? We're moving it to Brian's May finance meeting.
Yep. So
Make
we
a
have-
decision, I wanna know if that's the case.
I heard two answers on Tuesday when they were here. The one that I heard when I asked Susan or Karen, they said, if we got our contract approved by our county attorney, we get the contract approved by the state, sign it and give it to you, how long after that can we get the machine? She said 3 weeks. Jeff asked the same question to somebody else. They said August, which would give us on both plenty of time to be ready for November.
So, but as a consensus, this is the vendor we're gonna go with.
This is really the one we want to go. with.
Okay. So that's number one. Number two, with all due respect, Al, you'd have to go back and do the research in the history of how many ballots were printed or actually cast in all those primaries to see what the savings are, because you're gonna print 110% of all the primary voters if we don't do it on demand, right?
No.
I thought you said it had to be 110% of the voters that are eligible.
As Warren County says, we have to print 110%, but they don't do it either.
We would do probably 80-90%.
Okay, well, make up my mind. We're talking about numbers here.
You're
We gotta
right.
Come up with it.
The requirement is 110%.
So wouldn't we need the data on how many people voted in those previous ones to figure out the delta, how much we're gonna save?
And we would then also have to back out, if we got the printers, what I'm hearing is, well, we're gonna have a supply of emergency ballots anyway, so we're gonna print some.
Right.
Even with printers. So what's the delta there?
Between the two.
Can you guys somehow get all that information to us by finance so we can make an informed decision?
And just to let you know, on your question, last summer, we had two primaries, okay, one in June and one in August. There was only a 15% turnout in both of them. We only printed 30% ballots. Didn't make sense to print 110.
So that's,
So the savings would shrink.
that's a very different number.
Right, so
So you
It's
violate the
not-
law.
is it a law though that you just, if you get audited?
Yeah.
it's more art than skill. Because the numbers are low, why-
So I can't vote and,
General election, you have to know what percentage.
It depends on the election. If it's a presidential, we're probably gonna do 100%. If it's a governor, we're gonna do 80. If it's a local, we're probably doing 50.
that's a different number.
So your savings is actually on printing them yourself because you're only printing votes.
Well, we're not.
However, if we get from a vendor and we only printed 50% and we had 60% turnout like Argyle, which
Trying to get to the number you're talking about.
alcohol a couple of years ago, it's hard to predict sometimes exactly how many you need.
Well,
We gotta go with one number.
Yeah, we certainly don't.
Do this percent.
Yep.
We certainly don't want to buy anything until we find out if it's in the budget that they're going to grant them.
Because you'd hate to buy them and then find out, oh, you bought them before they came out with the money.
Well, they're not.
Well, we should know
Well,
with
and I'm
the-
hoping the
Not
budget officer would come back to us and say, well, there's not enough money in the fund balance, there's not enough money in the capital projects. So that'll make a determination whether we're gonna buy them or not too, right? You're gonna come with a recommendation where the money's gonna come from. Okay. I'll get thrown back to the airport.
So if we start in May, we'll have more questions and we'll bring over to July no matter what.
So we're gonna really, we just need to move this to finance and get more updated numbers and we can fight about it all again and try and do it. Moved by John, seconded by Dave. Another question, Dave?
Totally different question. I didn't want to muddy the water. You mentioned that there was a possibility of grant from the state budget.
Yes, yes,
What kind of percentage of grant money you're talking?
I have no idea.
No information yet.
No information
And
whatsoever.
secondly, we don't, if we ordered these, I don't care if we order a month from now, and the budget isn't passed, once you order them, then are you still eligible for the grant?
The way the grant works right now is they give you a window to purchase them in to qualify for the grant. We don't have that information yet. For instance,
Well, we want to be a little slow dragging our feet, so we know what the grant is.
There's only 62 counties are gonna jump on that grant, and
Oh, yeah.
order them up off from the same guy at the same time.
Well, it doesn't make any sense to put a grant together that you can't use.
The state would never do that.
Okay,
Don't think so.
sort that one out.
When the
Any further
62 counties
discussion?
decide that it's in the budget, they're all gonna want them all at once.
Oh, absolutely.
Who's gonna get them first?
So the grant
Ain't gonna be
discussion
update
really
now.
isn't part of the motion on the floor. If you guys
Well,
want
it isn't, but I just don't want to go ahead and finance and order them, and it screws us up with the grant.
Right.
So this is where we get this into the weeds, not in finance.
Right, there.
So we are waiting for the budget to be cleared to see if there is anything in it.
The vote to move it to finance, all in favor, say aye.
Well, Debbie's gotta know what to move the finance, right? We need a motion of some wording.
You're gonna move discussion on purchasing voting machines to the finance committee?
When they have more up-to-date numbers, that was the way they were putting it.
Well,
John
I
moved
know.
it, Dave seconded it.
And this doesn't really matter. That's just a.
Right. All in favor, say aye. Opposed?
No. I want to keep it here and let it
Carried.
be done until we know what, we don't have any answer to even agree to anything.
So,
We are good at finance.
It almost sounds like we're agreeing on.
no, we're just moving it to finance so they can have more up-to-date numbers for more discussion. That
That's
was
so that you
the
can
way it was.
think
brought
on
up.
it longer and get the courage to say no to the printers.
The questions on the grant is there's no real information, so we can't give you any information on the grant because there's no information.
So I said, right, still not do anything. We don't have enough information.
It's the printer's
They're still gonna go ahead and discuss the actual numbers so you're prepared. Otherwise, keep kicking that down the road, then you're not gonna have any information when you get to the grant.
Can't believe it.
Tom, something else.
Yeah, two other things. We are trying to reduce costs as much as possible, like when we talked about consolidating both sites. There was at one time, we were thinking with these new machines that we would end up having to do 4 trucks instead of 2 trucks for delivery. And I kind of warned you about the prices was going up on that. It looks like we might be able to finagle with these, only using 2 trucks, which is kind of good news. It's cost savings. The other thing that's coming at us that has passed part of the legislature is that they're passing, it looks like it's going to pass, that all commissioners will be full-time, which really doesn't affect us. All counties will have at least 2 deputies, which won't affect us. But after that, counties Board of Elections will be required to hire 2 additional employees per 40,000 registered voters, which we're under, which would affect us having to hire 2 more people by law. And that's coming down the pike. Hasn't been passed.
Who we're under for you.
Right, up to 40,000, we have to hire 2.
Oh, okay.
Over 40,000, we have to hire 2 more.
Got it.
And it doesn't make any common sense to us because it's affecting the small counties, not the big counties. So they can't afford to do it. Or had no real reason to do it. Now, we could use the help, of course. There are times that we're pulling our hair out trying to get things done for an election. But at the same time, we are doing it without them, but we certainly would like to help. But it's mandated, we don't have a whole lot of choice.
Well, if we have to hire
We're running out of time.
we can go back to paper ballots and we can count them. We can hire people that can count.
Who let him?
Okay, any other questions for Dan?
Tom, you mentioned about the battery backup. And then there got to be dialogue about what would you do without batteries for the printer? What dawned on me is how many of your polling sites have generators? Because if the power goes out,
Let
you
me,
can't have an election there anyway.
let me jump to Terry because her hand went up right away as soon as you started asking.
I would just say that battery backups are not something that are an option to consider for this type of technology. They'll give you enough runtime to switch over to generator, but you would have to have massive, huge batteries that wouldn't even be transportable to make anything.
I'd have to drag
Any
these.
longer.
See, that's not the point. I'm missing my point. My point is how the polling site's gonna function.
Right,
If the power's
so-
out.
If there's anything drastic.
If you think about it,
Generator.
November at 7 o'clock is really dark.
Well, November at 6 o'clock in the east and the wind was blowing so hard and the line was out the door because the voting machine broke down. People left, went home and didn't vote. The point is you can't function. You can't have an election if the power is out. That's all I'm saying.
Do you have agreement with all
Unless
polling
there's a
sites?
generator.
You have agreement with all polling sites, right?
Yes.
Does the agreement say they have to have backup?
Well, that's what I was just
For
thinking
generator?
is that we send those out to the poll sites and what we should add is ask if there is a generator. Because we did
We don't.
add on that a couple of years ago, whether they're on NICIC or New York State.
At town hall? No.
Because we didn't know which one they were operating.
Or learn,
You
reach
had an
out to
emergency
the,
location?
reach out to the highway, each highway.
No, we don't have nothing.
If they have.
So that's something we need to add to our letter. Find out who knows.
Yeah, I mean,
But you're
I
right.
mean, our town has a generator because it's an emergency location. If
yeah.
somebody needed-
See, our
And as big
firehouse
as yours is,
I can just hire around the county to whoever needs power, right?
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, Brian's gonna wanna buy a fleet of lightning, so he
One for each polling site.
drive
Talk
around.
about that trouble.
Just pull Brian's truck up, plug it in.
any other questions for,
Isn't there no solar arrays in Easton that we should be able to at least power one generator? Right, to make it work.
Very long extensions.
any pertinent questions? Okay. You guys are done.
We're done. Thank you so much. Appreciate your help and
Run.
positive comments.
He said that the scanner was just very short.
Are we the only one?
Please direct your attention to Melissa. She has another policy update. She's got 14 minutes, so no chit chat to the side and watch her.
Okay, purchasing policy. So at the board meeting, the local law passed, which allowed for best value for our purchasing policy. So you will find a copy of the policy with the update now including the best value. The items that are included are still on your front page. And I just want to reiterate that no county bids are going to be issued or awarded using best value, which means but the bids that we actually put out are not going to allow best value. We're just utilizing other bids that have already been put out, awarded, and that includes Sourcewell.
Why?
Because it's incredibly.
Why would you limit yourself that much to say we will only use best value for this very narrow, vendor instead of everybody? I don't understand why you want to purposely restrict your, I just don't get it.
Well, you're gonna explain. what
In
it
some
takes
ways,
to go
though-
best value bid.
But in some ways, I understand what Dana is saying. I wouldn't restrict ourselves because at the most inopportune time, if you're restricting yourself, that will be a problem. You just don't know what that time is yet.
I think by putting best value in like we have, it allows us to utilize a lot more of the cooperatives, including Sourcewell, the state bid. So we have a broader net that we can look at different prices for items that we purchase. We weren't looking to do it ourselves, I think partly because of the process that is involved when you put out a bid using best value. There's a whole rating system. I don't know honestly if we're even staffed, if we're gonna start doing something like that to that magnitude. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot more work involved if we're to do it. If by allowing it, we can look at the work everyone else has done.
You have 17 paid volunteers that have to come in and help with.
That wouldn't work.
Paid volunteers.
That wouldn't work. Bob?
You do realize this best value has to happen at the bid process. It doesn't work. You get bids in and then you decide
Right.
which is the best value. That's not how it works. You have to do this whole huge rating scale and stuff. When
No, you
put the
don't.
bid out, yes, you do. That's what.
You
best
just, in your
value is.
notice, you put at the very bottom of the notice that you may use best value, you may award to lowest bidder or best value. And then the award system is all in your head, what you think.
No,
No,
it's
it's
different than
not,
your,
Dan.
it's different than your
You're
county.
absolutely wrong. That's not how it works.
Why is the county different than the town?
Because you're doing it at the end, and we're doing it in the beginning, right?
No, you can't do it at the end.
We do it all the time at the end of the town. We say the county cannot.
If you're doing it wrong.
It's two different policies.
Next thing,
And then we had for over $50,001, departments must have 3 quotes and committee board approval to purchase the best value awarded item. That was something that was discussed here at committee in the past. I don't know, Supervisor Happ, I think that's something you commented on at the board meeting. I don't know if you want a discussion
Because
on having that amount.
You still need 3 written quotes at 20,000, correct? Before you get to $50,001, you still need, when you get to 20,000, you still need 3 written quotes.
That's correct, but for the best value, this would be put parameters on just the best value. That's the only thing I'm looking.
But if you're gonna use best value, if it's over $20,000, you still need 3 quotes for you to determine the best value, way before you get to 50,000. So I almost think that 50,000, that little chart, just cross out 3 written quotes or 3 written quotes as per the $20,000 requirement. I think it's very confusing the way it's written. Because it makes you think if it's less than 50,000, you don't need 3 written quotes, but you do. At the 20,000 mark.
If Barb and Sue understand it, that's all that really matters.
That's it, yeah, yes. The best value is what we have the parameters to incorporate into the policy right now. Some of the other items are state, as far as the thresholds, are actually state mandated. So if we want to dive into what is state mandated and what isn't, even further into the policy, I mean, we can do that as well. But I believe it's anything that's under 20,000 are items that don't actually have to be in the policy. They're just items that committee has, I guess, wanted in that in the past. So for best value right now, we have it that we're coming to committee for anything that's $50,001 or more to get board or committee approval and then board approval for best value. There has been concern from at least one department, possibly 2, that it'll slow down the process a little bit because of the nature of the items they're purchasing and the cost. So I don't know if there is any interest in taking that $50,000 cap off, or if you'd like to leave it in, it is included in this policy now.
What's the downside of leaving it in until we actually work this through to see what kind of roadblocks or potholes this
Really
creates?
isn't a
Because if there aren't
downside.
any,
Right, I
then
can always bring it back again.
Yeah.
Right, if we have issues.
Carrie,
I just wanted to say just really quick, just because it affects my department a lot from an IT perspective and because of my previous perspective, that I just want to say how good I think the best value perspective is from an IT, from the IT side of the house. When I had my own business, I was a small business in the area, and getting on-state contracts impossible for small businesses. But I could sell to most of the towns because I could always beat state contract prices, always, every single time. I was a member of some other cooperatives, but like others, it had to be state contract. And I guess I would just say that, so we don't limit the places that we can buy things, like from an IT perspective, you know, you can purchase off the state contract or the OGS contract, and you think you got this great price, but it's not true, you know, because I can go through Sourcewell or some of the other vendors that are part of these other best value cooperative purchasing that beat state contract by big margins sometimes. And I guess I just wanted to put that out there so that as, you know, we talk about best value and moving forward with that, you know, if I've got a X project and it's a $200,000 project on state contract, but I could buy that same hardware from another vendor that's on the best value for 160. I don't know why we wouldn't want to have that option, you know, just to be able to give us a lot more options in terms of purchasing. And I know it affects my department a lot, I just wanted to kind of throw that out there just from the small business employer perspective, you know, being able to compete. You know, the only companies we can buy from when we talk about the big state contracts are the big vendors, you know, CDW, CDWG, SHI, because those are the ones that have the state contracts. It's not the small guy. It's not being able to push small business, even though small business can compete if we had the opportunity in the policy. So.
That's what I'm saying. Why
That's
would
what
you
I'm
limit
saying.
your scope to just Sourcewell, other, you know, why would you, a local vendor could beat the price, but you couldn't take that low price because they're not Sourcewell or other cooperatives.
Some of the other cooperatives are easier to get involved with for small business, because I was involved with some. I just thought I'd throw that.
So I'm not sure what you're asking, Dana, if I understand your question. So I would think if, we totally off base here, but if you're looking for something, if they're going out to purchase something, they're gonna look at all the options that are out there. All we've done now is we haven't removed the options we had before, we're just adding new ones. So
But
if
Terry,
if
Terry
there's
were a
still-
private vendor working out of her house or a Sourcewell. And she was not a member of Sourcewell or any of these other cooperatives. You could not look at her lowest price
and if
because
it's-
she's not part of, not said right
The
here.
bids that we're putting out are not including best value.
But if her price is the lowest, you would still accept the lowest, you still would take the low
Yes,
price.
yeah,
But what if her price
She's
was
a
a little bit
respectable
more
business.
than the lowest? You couldn't use best value on a private vendor.
Right, because we
Right.
award to the lowest.
No,
Lowest responsible.
or if they were from Sourcewell. If you're going with Sourcewell, are you still getting the lowest price? Not necessarily, if there was a private vendor that.
You're
had a
not
lower price.
limited, you're not saying you have to go to Sourcewell, you're just saying it's another option, it's another choice in the grocery
You
cart.
couldn't go to Sourcewell before because they did it on the best value. If Sourcewell was the lowest bid, you could go to them now because because we're accepting best value. Otherwise, we couldn't go to them.
Right.
So what this is saying is that we can take the lowest bidder, no matter how they bid their stuff.
But what if it wasn't the lowest, but it's the best value?
That's
It was
that's-
somebody
that's
just
a
had a
different-
storefront.
that's a different
You couldn't,
definition
you
of best
couldn't
value.
go to them.
That's a totally different definition of best value. That's not best value bidding. That's a subjective decision that the group is making, that, hey, we don't want to buy a Dodge, we're buying a Ford. That's completely subjective, and that it may be what you think of as a best value, but it's not best value bidding. This is just allowing another source of bidding that might be lower.
Best value allows you to pay more than the lowest bid.
You're comparing your town versus this.
That's Roger.
Not even close.
That's Roger. The definition of best value is you're not going with the lowest bid.
No, it's not.
Not in this.
Otherwise, you don't need best value. Otherwise, you just go with the lowest bid.
We can't now use best value bids, right?
Correct.
Correct. You have
So
to go with the
really limit
lowest bid
We
now.
get to look at.
This allows you to look at something other than the lowest bid. But you're narrowing it so much to Sourcewell and other cooperatives that you really can't look at the other best values out there. You gotta put out an RFP. You won't be able to look at it.
Yeah, you're definition of best value of the town, this is the best value definition here. They're different things.
Yeah,
It's apples and oranges.
And don't RFP's not a bid. RFP does use non-quantitative analysis, value. Professional services is the one, this firm may give really good services. They'll both represent you or do whatever from my viewpoint, but these guys have more expertise than these guys, whatever. So RFPs are very neat. We're talking about hard number bids. So I want a truck. Sourcewell got their number one way. Here's their number. State contract got their number one way. Here's their number. Washington County got another number through bids. Here's their number. For 4 wheels, 4-wheel drive, 2 doors, 1 ton, whatever the specifications are, and the lowest number that meets, right now, you can't take that Sourcewell number because of the way they obtained that number. Right. So we're not talking about Ford versus Chevy. That's probably a good analogy. We're talking about truck, one each with these specifications. And so it's just another arrow in your option, arrow in the quiver, not another option or another number for you to look at, and hopefully you're always gonna take the lowest number, because isn't that the point? That we pay less? So, so it allows you to take into, so the definition is that, ask Roger, my favorite one is, so I'm gonna read you the definition, means the basis for awarding contracts for services. Services. To the offer which optimizes quality, cost, and efficiency among responsive and responsible offerers. Such basis shall reflect whenever possible, objective and quantifiable analysis. Such basis may also identify a quantitative factor for offerers that are small business certified, minority or women-owned business and enterprises, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So again, when we're talking about things, objects, which is mostly what you did. I'm not just looking at being able to look at another number. It's arrived at in a different way.
And the reason that we wanted to do this was because there have been awards that have been given that we have paid more for because we didn't allow best value, so we couldn't even look at all these other options that we had. So we know we've paid more for certain items.
I think going by to purchasing cooperatives is good. You've improved it by 80%, but you could go 100%. I just wonder why you're stopping at 80%. You could make it better. This is good, could be better. I think going to Sourcewell is a good thing, but I think it could make it better.
I think I'm gonna try to help Dana make his point so that we understand where he's going with this. If we went back several years when we bought some cars, there was some car, and we ended up, the low bid was out in Buffalo area. Carmody Ford came in, they put a bid in, and it was $7 higher. And at that time, you made a point and you said, isn't it terrible? Why don't we go best value? Because for $7 more, it would have made Washington County healthier. And
No,
no,
that's his best value.
that's what I'm trying to say. That's his point he's trying to make. I'm not agreeing with anything, Matt. I'm just trying to make his point. So that
We take the lowest bid no matter what. He doesn't have to take the lowest bid.
right.
Two different definitions of best
And I'm
value.
with you on that.
Okay.
I'm with you on
So why
that.
are we discussing the town of Hartford best value policy when we're in Washington County government ops?
Well, because if you let me finish my line, I'm saying the county can't do that regardless. Is what the point is being made here. That's the point. You can't do it. So that's why his argument, even though it's valid for Hartford, is not valid for Washington County.
Totally agree.
Why didn't you explain it like that? That's clear.
Dan's smarter than I am. He speaks Hartford either.
I thought you were gonna come over to the table.
What are we doing here? We looking to make a motion, listen to change
We just
something?
want to know
What are we
if
doing?
you're gonna approve Melissa's policy.
We didn't do that in the previous board meeting?
Yes.
You approved best value. Now it's.
Now she wants to amend it.
So remember when we talked about it, we were putting it out there as a law, because once we have the law in place, then it's there. Then we have to come out with the policy on how to use the
And
law.
that was stated in the law.
So this is what, because you can change the policy when it has to be done without having to go through and do a whole.
You want a
nother
motion to
law.
approve this policy?
Correct.
Motion.
Second.
Moved by Matt, seconded
That's
by
all I was
Tim.
gonna get to.
Any further discussion?
Yeah,
Oh,
the chairman just asked me if we could move the threshold to 100,000. So I'm throwing it out there.
I don't have a problem moving it because I think the cost of a lot of the equipment is that high.
Motion on the floor.
well,
Do you want to amend it? The motion to change the policy to
No.
100,000?
No, I like it just the way it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say
Aye.
John. Aye.
We'd be-
Opposed?
Can I ask a question?
Carried.
What does the piggybacking mean in here? The piggybacking off of, is that
That's
piggybacking off
best
of
value.
best value contracts?
Yes, do that too.
Did you get-
Somebody else already awarded it somewhere else, you could say.
Did you get your question answered? You answered.
Yeah,
Why don't we
before
answer
you
that
put
question
piggyback,
offline?
because we
That's a
never-
specific question for her. That's nothing to do with this.
Okay. All right. They're gonna answer that one after the meeting. Next policy. Next question. Go ahead.
Okay.
Live like that, Dad. I keep trying to.
You got a gavel on her hand now.
I picked that up for these guys.
Oh, yeah.
Did you guys get this one?
Oh, this should be too bad, yeah.
We need one more.
This should be easy.
Whoa.
This should be easy.
This should be 100,000 also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, we just have to
This one I
buy
already
it
talked
into the
about.
account.
No, that's not, you're in the wrong one. This is the vacation. Don't you read your county emails, Dana?
I'm reading the agenda.
Oh, no.
Dave, I'm off the agenda.
Did you get your, don't you read your county emails?
It was on there this morning. Okay, please give your attention to Melissa.
And I do apologize about bringing this last minute. This item of vacation donation has come up in the past. It has just come up again. I had a phone call with the sheriff last week who asked about a vacation donation program because he has some inquiries from people in his department currently. We have not had a vacation donation program. So what I am proposing is what you have in front of you is to establish a vacation donation program that's voluntary. It's available to full-time employees that have completed their probationary period, where it allows employees to donate vacation days that they have earned only in full increments, not in hours. Can't donate 2 hours, 3 hours. It's got to be in full day increments to other employees who are absent from work for a non-occupational related injury or illness or other extraordinary circumstance such as bereavement or caregiving. If the recipient leaves the county employment, unused donation vacation time will not be paid out to the recipient. It will be returned to the county. All vacation donations must be approved by the department head, the county administrator, and the chairman of the board.
Question. Sorry, quick question. Unused vacation time, shouldn't it be returned to the employee who donated it?
We can do whatever you would like,
I don't want to do anything.
but
We discussed this before.
once
Right.
you donate it, we don't take it.
Do we have a policy on sick days?
Trust.
No,
No,
we
no.
do not.
We discussed it.
We've never, long ago and far away, we discussed both vacation and sick donations.
And we didn't do anything.
We didn't do, you chose not to do anything,
Really?
right? So now Melissa's back.
You did just lift the cap on the
Right, you
number
lifted
of
the cap
sick
for,
days.
for,
that could be-
for individual employees, that doesn't allow it to transfer anywhere else.
Okay.
But we did have a discussion about both those days a while ago,
This isn't sick time, this is.
right? This is vacation.
So you've got skin in the game, it's not the same as sick time, it's a little different flavor.
But it would be used when you exhaust your sick time. And this would be.
This is only
No,
used
no.
if you are out of work for one of those circumstances that's listed at the top, and you don't have any leave time, which
Right.
doesn't occur very often. It's no sick time, you have no vacation time, you have no personal, or you've used all of it. You have to have used everything that you've acquired before you're even eligible for this program.
Is there a cap?
On the number of days that you can acquire?
Yeah.
No, but I did put in the bottom, talks about the process, is that the donation forms would be processed weekly. So you're only taking in what the person needs on a weekly basis. So I don't want someone to be able to donate 300 days to someone and then they're back in 2 weeks. And there's just this huge number of vacation days just sitting there that are never going to go back to those employees that don't pick it up. So I'd rather do it on a weekly basis. That way, obviously, we're trying to get the employee to come back to work, and hopefully that happens. But
So,
there's,
for example, if 20 people say they'll donate a day, they just sit here. When it comes to, say, Friday for the next week, you would take the first 5 people and say, okay, you're each donating a day. Now we're gonna move it to Joe Schmo over here and he's taking his 5 days. So Melissa doesn't have to worry about managing tons of floating days out there. It's only gonna be done as a weekly basis. Then if it happens that he has to stay, whoever needs another week, then you would go to the next 5 offers on the table and take 1 day from each one of them. There wouldn't be a big,
Pool, a
right.
bucket.
wouldn't be a huge bucket and it'd only be on a per occasion. Like I would say, I'm donating a vacation day and I'm donating it to Dana, but he didn't need it, so you use it. That doesn't work either. It's only, I would say, I'm giving 1 vacation day. Here's my form. It goes into the stat to help Dana. When Dana comes back to work, it's gone.
But you don't appoint the vacation to a person who goes into a bank.
No,
No.
go to a person.
To the person.
We had something like this years and years ago in Hartford, and the need for this came down to the person wasn't working, didn't have any sick time, vacation time left. And in order to pay his 25% of the health insurance premium, he needed more money from somewhere. So if you donated a vacation day, that might help pay that when payroll came, help pay his health insurance.
And that's absolutely correct. That would also be one of the benefits.
But it would be the benefits to pay any of their bills, because they're actually gonna get a paycheck when they can't work.
But
We
if
have
you
no
are,
say on
if
whether-
you are earning a salary, correct, you wouldn't have that problem. So you would be donating this to non-salary people.
Well, if you're salary, you still have to report to work. Yeah, I'm not gonna get paid if I don't come into work and I used all my leave time, correct? So I think salary people would still have to have that donated time.
So department heads could use this policy.
So
If
our exempt
necessary.
employees that are one punchers still have to at least punch in to be here. So they would still need a day if they were out of work.
But an elected person like yourself would
Right,
not.
it would not include elected officials.
Dave,
So this says must have used all earned leave time,
All,
but
Yes.
does it include sick time
yes,
also?
Yes.
all,
Make it more specific.
no, it says all leave time.
all.
Specific as you can be.
Sick,
Everything.
personal.
Everything's done.
Health insurance.
And this has come up because there have been employees that have wanted to donate to other employees before. That's why this has come up. And it's just come up again.
Bob,
Two facets to this. You know, one is, I think it's a good humane thing to do, I sort of like it. Number two, there's two ways to look at the way we're doing it. One is, say, well, it's a popularity contest. If Bob Hankey runs out of sick leave and stuff and asks for things and nobody likes it, nobody's gonna give him any. Whereas if Melissa runs out, everybody's gonna give it to her. You know, you could think of it that way. The way I was involved with it from the state, we could donate, it went into a bucket. And, you know, then almost anybody, anybody that requested it could use it. I could say, you know, geez, I just gave 2 weeks of sick time, and I know it's for this malingering son of a gun over here that doesn't deserve it. And, you know, everybody gets mad, the whole thing collapses. So I think, I like this system better, even though you do have the element of, you know, the sort of tense feeling that, well, maybe it is a popularity contest, maybe it's, you know, this individual that kind of brought it up this time, you know, everybody wanted to donate to it, maybe somebody else not so much, but that's kind of, you know, a factor dealing with people. I think this is not a bad system. I sort of like this.
And I did look into other entities that had the sick day pools. And from what I got from those people, they're hard to manage. Yeah.
Sam,
Yeah, and in addition to that, this is a benefit that is financially neutral. It doesn't cost us a thing to provide it. And it can take the load of stress off, and if people have to come to work, and I know, because I've been a caretaker, and I know Bob's been through this as well. You know, some days it's hard to come to work and be focused on what you're doing. And with some of the things that we need to do, like the social services and things that they have to, attention to detail they have to pay for on their, when they process their claims for their clients, sending veterans and stuff. You know, sometimes we sit back and you're not going to, just because the person's here doesn't mean you're going to be productive. Okay, and I think that there's a way that we can do that, give them some relief. It's a financially neutral item, it's not costing us anything. Then we should try to accommodate that.
And that's a good point. And on top of it not costing us anything, it also, in those 24/7 operations, if a person isn't out of work, you're not covering their shift. So you're not paying overtime to the person that just donated because now they're not out of work. So there could be some cost savings to that. So instead of having 2 people out of work, I only have 1 person because the other person donated their time.
Jim,
Organization I belong to has a policy like this. Only the individual requesting days remains anonymous. I might get by what you're concerned about.
It doesn't provide administration.
There's no administrative.
I don't,
Most people.
How does this differ from what we already have on the books?
That only pays for, that's for non-union.
Right.
It's in the employee handbook.
Yeah.
It's for non-union, it only pays for health insurance.
But you're donating it to, it's, I mean, you just said we're keeping you on the thing to pay for your whatever, so.
it was.
No, that's one of the
Example.
benefits of this, to use that towards your health insurance, if you like, and your other, you know, you may have.
But it's really not,
Deductions.
if you just took out the sentence, the purpose of this benefit is to continue health insurance, it's the same, isn't it really? Same thing.
No, I don't think it is the same thing.
Vacation leave may be donated to an employee who is out of work and currently participating in the county health and health insurance. So if we just take out vacation leave may be donated to an employee who is out of work. The donor and recipient must be both eligible for vacation leave. The donor must have vacation leave available to donate. Leave time cannot be donated that will be expired before the time is used, the anniversary date of the donor. Must be eligible to receive vacation. For recipients, must be eligible to receive vacation leave, must have used all leave, no vacation, sick or personal leave.
Yeah, there's similarities to that, but this is something that I would like to put countywide, not just have it for non-union employees.
Right.
And I would like it to not be used just for health insurance costs, which is that. That's all that allows.
So you can cross out those words. And this is also negotiable item with unions, by the way.
If the committee approved it, then I would ask for permission to come up with an MOA with our labor attorney and have the unions present that to the unions if they're in agreement, have them sign that, get back to me.
Wouldn't they be? I'm just saying that in the case of all these other MOAs, it's.
Dan,
I hesitate to even say this, but what, is it fair to the taxpayers if somebody that's making $16 an hour donate a vacation day to somebody that is making $28 an hour? Is that a fair trade to the taxpayers? And I'm trying to sort this out in my mind. I'm not opposed to it, but I'm trying to be fair about it.
Could even well go the other way.
Sam,
Well, the other way is fine. No, that is fair to the taxpayer, what I'm saying.
Well, balance the other out over time.
But once again, Dan, the budget's established, it's not costing anyone, it's not costing the taxpayer anymore, it's not costing anyone less. It's, the dollars have already been figured into the budget. The person is, you know, gonna get paid at their regular rate.
And it's time that the employee earned. It's not additional.
Well, I know what you're saying, Sam, but to me, that is an invalid argument because then everybody ought to get paid the same amount of money. If the same value is the same with every job. And it isn't. So, I mean, I had to bring it up because there is a different value to a job.
John,
I make $15 an hour. Dan makes 25,
30, give me 30.
30. I donate 5 hours,
Whole day.
one day.
Can't do hours.
8 hours at my pay, or is it going?
It's no pay. We're not associating pay with it.
You lose a day, I get a day.
The answer is his.
So he gets a day at $30 an hour, and I give away a day at $15 an hour.
That does, that
But
would.
we have
That doesn't work.
Unless he gives it to you, and
Then I'll be happy.
then you'll be happy, and the county will make $15 an hour, so.
It's gotta be pegged to
I
the
just added
dollars
Sue first.
for that
Sue,
day.
You know, I think there's something.
Sue has the floor.
I think there's something more to this than just the money piece. I think sometimes morale in different departments and thinking about how they can help their fellow worker or whether someone that's in need has value too. And, you know, I think that right now, especially, that's needed in most of the departments. The workforce at a very difficult time, you know, it's working together and figuring out how we can help each other. And this gives them the way to do that. It gives the department heads a way to, and keep their departments whole. I think it's a good idea. Thank you, Melissa. Oscars.
Al,
So I might be able to help Mr. Shaw with his concern. So what will happen, Mr. Shaw, is regardless of what your rate is and what your rate is, you're gonna get paid what was in the budget for you. You're gonna get paid what's in the budget for you when we've already taxed for. There's no impact on the taxpayer by you swapping days. You're gonna receive the salary that we put in the budget for you. You're
I
gonna
agree.
receive the salary that we put in the budget for you, regardless of this day swap. You're gonna get paid 260 days at your rate. You're gonna get paid 260 days at your rate, which we've already taxed for. But there isn't, in my opinion, an impact on the taxpayer, but you've already taxed for both of those salaries. Now, I will footnote it by saying, if he didn't donate to you and you weren't here and we didn't pay you, we would have saved and it sits in my fund balance, and thank you very much. But you're arguing about being on the taxpayer. We've already taxed for both of those salaries. And you're both just gonna receive the salary that we already taxed for. So there isn't an impact on the taxpayer, regardless of your hourly rate. Does that make sense?
Oh, I don't disagree. I knew that point, but still, I hope you heard Saul, my point was, and I just wanted to make sure it's fair to the taxpayer, because supposedly every person is needed. And if we can trade days around. Now, I was thinking, what if, now, I don't want to go down this road because I'm gonna get off on a tangent. You don't need that.
Dana,
I think this, as Roger said, this is already taken care of. with the Previous policy about sick days for your health insurance. This could be used if you wanted an extra day to spend in Utah.
That's not one of
It's
the
not-
Where does it say that?
Unless Dana Hogan thinks of staying a day in Utah is an extraordinary elected official.
I don't count.
That's true.
I could give Brian another week and
But it all it says is that exceptional circumstances.
No, it says injury, illness that's not work related. Extraordinary circumstances such as bereavement or caregiving.
Okay.
And there would have to be an approval.
It's a pretty narrow
process.
usage.
If you have a.
And I don't
deed, well,
expect it to
well,
happen very
I can now, right?
Yes. I'll move this to the full board.
Second.
moved by Dave, seconded by Matt. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
I don't know.
It's going to the board.
Dana Hogan.
Again,
Yeah.
it's all neutral.
There's valid reason not to do this before.
I think it's a bank. Okay, I dread this. Is there anything else to come before?
Yeah, I still got one more on here.
Now,
I just, two quick things that you should not take up any time. Just one announcement, I've had an employee transferred to another department, so I'm in the hunt for an employee.
Join the club.
God have mercy on my soul because I
We got our
forgot
own
this.
hunting club.
I now have been the receiver of a poaching rather than being the poacher.
You know, coaching is much more satisfying.
It is, it really is. The other, the other thing that I want to have you all take a look at for me, I don't want to discuss it today, but I want to give you homework if you're interested. Take a look at Senate Bill 5213 and Assembly Bill 4935. It's regarding the interest rate on delinquent taxes, taxpayer bill of rights, and the surplus from the sale and auction. If you're interested, take a look at it. And we can discuss at a different time, but I have some significant concerns about both of those pieces of legislation.
What were those numbers again?
It's Senate 5213 and Assembly 4935.
Are they the same wording in both of them?
Yeah, it looks like it's a joint, jointly sponsored 2 House bills.
That's a bad thing.
Stay tuned. It looked like that was on the
budget
already.
is the map for
It's,
Yeah,
it's
we can
not
do it.
done, it's
I'm hoping to be a quickie.
alive.
Matt, you have other business?
I had a quickie, but something, yeah, can you put it up on the thing, Deb? We're going back to the Church Street Bridge, our favorite topic.
Oh, is this where your name's on the flag?
No name on the flag.
You're gonna rebuild it again?
We were talking about that when that came on.
Okay, the county grabbed this piece of property and this piece of property. Long story, but they own it, right? They own it currently. They own these two pieces currently. Laura's in the process of getting this subdivided right here. So that this house can be sent to July's auction. So this gets subdivided. We own this. We don't need this anymore. It was used as a construction trailer and as a staging site. So we'll sell this. Which means the county will own this, which is a parking lot. And this strip, which is like 40 to 50 feet times maybe 150 feet. Now, the village is asking, could they put a walkway down through here to the river? Because right now here at the river, you could swim there, you could fish there, you could put a kayak in there. They would build a little path, a little stone thing, maybe 4 or 5 feet wide, give it access. Roger would write up an MOU to indemnify the county and say, you're holding harmless, blah, 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 blah. Would the county be open to that idea?
We didn't.
No. We didn't, because this is still in play because of the bridge. Deb does not want to give up these two properties. We want to give this to anybody. She wants to keep these, right? It's a smart thing to do. The only rub is, when we acquired these in 2020, we got them through DSS. There's a property maintenance law. This was all grassed in. I had to go mow this. In 2021, the village said, as a gesture of goodwill, we will mow this for you. In 2022, it was a construction site for the bridge, so there was no mowing. It is currently all grassed in. If you let them put this walkway in, they will mow this for you. If you say, no, we're not going to give you the walkway, Matt's got to send a guy, a mower, and a truck once a week over here to mow this. So would you let Roger put something that protects the county together to send to the village to let them put a walkway in to come down to access the river? Who would be opposed to that?
Is the fishing access still?
Yes, fishing, swimming, kayaking. It's low right here. So the drop off in lots of places, but right here, you could go right to the water's edge.
But no lighting?
No LED lights.
If they pave it.
But you're leaving, maybe I'm not gonna like the next guy and I wanna send him a note.
Let's make it work. If it was big enough. Oh, and by the way, this is too small to be a parcel. You couldn't build on it in village zoning. So it's really not worth anything, except for its access to the bridge.
And they're doing the secret too.
How wide did you say that was again?
I think this is 40 or 50 feet, maybe 50 feet here, 40 feet here, and maybe 150 feet this way. Something like that. I'm sorry?
It's 47 front right there.
47 feet, okay, 40 to 50, that's close. Because it's a Water Street address.
And if you wanted to, you would park across the street and walk down that path.
Say that, do we?
No,
You said it was
no,
parking.
it is. It is gonna be owned by the county. After this is subdivided and this is sold, this will be owned by the county and it's a paved parkway. I'm not asking for anything to do with that. Will people probably do that?
Probably doing it now.
Yeah.
Right,
But the point is, we gotta get this subdivided and this sold, so it can go in Al's auction. But, so the request is there. If you're open for it, Roger, put something together, send it to them, they sign it, send it back, he present it to you, and we'd all be happy, or is this a bad idea, we'll just kill it here.
I'm all right with it.
Okay.
I'm ready. We're doing the secret.
Yeah, and put it in there, they'll maintain it,
And they'll do the secret.
and they'll do the secret.
Sure you put the secret.
Moved by Dave,
And pay the
seconded by Tim
recording,
and
pay the
John.
recording costs for these.
Is it an easement? Okay.
I think that's the way to do it.
Sure, whatever you say, send it to them and.
Rest be easement.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Carried.
We're gonna park.
Do we have any other to come before government? I thought you said you were moving.
It's paid.
Oh, okay. Misunderstood. I thought that was part of whatever your law was.
Negative.
Okay, go on.
It's not mine. I didn't send it here.
Who said it?
Finance. Finance, they came up with finance. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't here on Thursday.
It was done at my request.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't here Thursday. My
The
bad.
same process we use to transfer property to the village of Greenwich. I was just hoping we could do a policy of the county, so if future towns and villages decide they want to take that same step, they have some assurance that they will be awarded the property after the fact. So if I understand understood it correctly, the village of Greenwich condemned the piece of property, correct the way they did that? They demolished the property,
They demolished the building.
demolished the building, incurred some in-kind expenses, and I'm sure some regular expenses, and now they've come in an attempt to try to get themselves reimbursed for those expenses. They're asking the county to transfer property to them so they can then turn around and sell it on the open market. Did I understand it correctly?
And they will pay the tax.
After they make
Pay
a
the
whole.
taxes to the county. I would just like that to be available to every town and village going forward, if that's
Isn't it?
a new policy we can adopt.
So I watched the meeting, I wasn't there either. But I watched it so I could get a sense of what. And Dan Martindale obviously told me a little bit. That he was a little far back, not being familiar with what happened. So we've done this 5 times that I can think of, maybe. Starting with, I think when I was, the first year I was here, we actually gave a parcel to the IDA that we took. I can't remember where it was. It might have been in the airport industrial park, but I doubt it. Flat out just gave it to them and actually got sued over whether or not we could do that. My first lawsuit, one of your constituents from Kingsbury, as a matter of fact, which we won parenthetically. So that was a giveaway. There was no reimbursement for taxes or anything. We subsequently have done the Fort Edward Market 32 property, Grand Union property. We've subsequently done the deal with Fort Edward that we just talked about, all of which have been a little different, all of which have had different moving components, different participants. Greenwich, I think, is the fourth one I can think of. The one we did in Hudson Falls, or the proposal that we had from Hudson Falls, as I recall it, involved the use of property maintenance costs. And there is a law that allows both villages and towns to conduct property maintenance activities and then put that money that they expend on the tax bill. And then they, of course, if they collect the taxes are collected, everybody's happy. If they do not collect the taxes, however, the county makes that entity whole and then takes the risk of collecting that money. I think Greenwich proceeded under they took the risk, in other words. They didn't assess it to the bill. They took the risk that maybe they could work out a deal with us later on in the day. The Hudson Falls proposal was to just put it on the bill and then have the county assume the risk of collecting those under the taxes if they weren't paid by the property owner. So if the property owner paid them, there's no risk to us. The position the county has taken by discussion and by resolution is that we do not want those activities. We do not endorse or I don't know, condone, okay, that's a good word. That process, because the risk then devolves to us of whether or not the cost of that property maintenance will actually be collected. The
repercussion.
Now, not the repercussions are we don't collect the money. It's really an opinion, okay, because the law allows it to happen. In the case of towns, there was actually a Court of Appeals case where the county said, I'm not going to reimburse you for that town. And the Court of Appeals said, yes, you are, because the law says you're going to do it. Same thing would happen in the case of a village, except for the fact that the county does have a tool in the case of dealing with villages and collecting of taxes where we can say, sure, if you want to do that, then collect your own taxes and then take your own risk and whether or not you'll get that money back. And that was the position that we took with villages prior to any other village coming to us and doing that. I think Grenville actually before was here was one of the ones that was talking about trying to do it, as have others. So I'm more than happy to write a policy, but I need to know what situations it's going to apply to. And you know, the deals have always been different. We basically said, we'll enter, if you have a proposal for us, come to us and we'll entertain them because they all involve different things. We didn't get any, I don't think we got any money back to the Grand Union, but we got a heck of a nice new store there. We're going to do, they're getting a grant for the one that's down in Fort Edward now. IDA didn't pay us, I don't think they reimbursed us for taxes.
What's the Cambridge one? That's the one that.
So the Cambridge one was the store that was, remember the store that was leaning and next to, I think it was O'Hearn's drugstore. And they ended up taking it down and they got nothing.
And then there was one in Whitehall where the building.
Right, and the triangle building,
Triangle
right, that
building in
eventually
Whitehall
came
ended
down,
up falling
right,
down.
that came down of its own accord. That wasn't foreclosed on because the ownership was in some wonderful limbo and, they didn't get anything either. So, because of the fact that we said to them, well, yeah, if you try to send us a bill for that, you can do that, but we may do other things that we're entitled to do. So all those situations have been different. Various entities have come to us under different situations, so I don't know. what
Was
policy
this,
would look
was
at.
this, Jim, that it's being foreclosed on for taxes,
Excuse me?
this parcel? So the agreements from the village?
Greenwich one.
Yes,
And so have you taken title to it?
no,
No conversation.
If we had a decision to do what they're asking, and then 3 days later, the owner made the taxes whole, we can't give away something we don't have, right?
Or if I found a defective notice and I couldn't take title to it, something like that.
right, something like that.
So it has to be after we take title to it.
Yeah, it's
Then we
always,
can give it away.
it's always
It's
after we
always be
take title.
contingent upon,
Right, it's always been
Contingent.
contingent upon that.
right, it would always be contingent.
Because we've only transferred parcels that we have the right to transfer.
So Dan, would this be only on foreclosed parcels,
That's the first question.
tax foreclosures?
Yes, exactly what's occurring.
Okay.
Okay.
Would it include, if they make us whole, right?
Yep.
Would that be for the amount owed, including the interest, the amount owed, including the penalty, the whole shoot match?
How do we do it for very much?
The whole shoot match,
Yeah, we'll shoot.
okay?
Just make it consistent. is all.
And then would there have to be a contingent that they would have already incurred costs, or they can ask for anything that's up for foreclosure? It just happened to border a school or border a town facility and.
Or it's a firehouse next to, property next to a firehouse like in there. We'll probably get it there.
Yep.
Same thing.
Sorry, so you're now asking.
I'm asking these questions we can
Right,
answer.
that's the ones I need to know. So if it's going eligible to be foreclosed on or has been foreclosed on,
Okay,
and the county's gonna recover all of its costs, which would, by the way, preclude Grand Union, right? And it's going to municipality, because I can see, why you transfer this to
town,
United Way?
village, fire department, 501c3, where are we going? Where's the line?
Right, so that's my,
Taxing jurisdiction.
Taxing jurisdiction.
the fire department's not a taxing jurisdiction.
So we,
Al,
Could a resolution in theory say to a municipality that must be a town or village within Washington County? The municipality must substantiate the need for the intervention. The intervention must be of a material need, excluding minute items such as lawn care. The municipality must also be able to substantiate its costs. Property to be transferred must be part of an impending tax foreclosure sale. All property transfers under these agreements must indicate the amount of monies the county will receive on its tax liens and the anticipated timeline by which those funds will be repaid. Way to say things like that.
When you read.
I think you have something that written.
But where is the string about the maintenance? You said no lawn costs, right? But what
We
about
don't want to-
demolition costs?
I'm sorry, well, that would be a much more material event.
See, I would want it with no strings attached. You make us whole,
But do we want to transfer properties because you have to mow the lawn? That seems a bit much.
well, in the other committee, I
I
was
wouldn't care if we're getting our money.
a little bit.
Okay, I'm just throwing that out
That's
as
the
a,
question.
I got a little too excited because we had an offer where there were no strings attached. Make us whole. I'm now not in favor of it because I am not in favor of foreclosing on a property and giving it to another government entity. So I was a little too excited first time because Greenwich said, make you whole, no strings, there will be no property maintenance, true up or anything like that for the county to take a risk. But after thinking about it, I'm like, that goes against my core values. So I'm against any policy we would have.
I don't know if I'd be for it, Dana's against it.
Okay, Joe.
In my somewhat limited tenure here, this has come up time after time, and every single situation's been different. I'm not sure we can create a policy that's gonna satisfactorily cover everything, because the next thing you're gonna have some new different thing. I almost think there's something we gotta bring up on a case-by-case basis when it happens. And I don't think I agree with Dana Hogan completely, because I don't think it necessarily involves an unfairness and, unfair expectations, but I think it's, I do think there's enough differences in these things. We almost gotta look at them case by case.
It's generally some kind of partnership arrangement that the other entity comes to us with. The Grand Union's a good example of, we got stuck in the chain of title that was contaminated. We really wanted out of the chain of title, but there we were. And so Ford ever came to us and said, well, sure, if you give it to us, we'll redevelop and indemnify you. It's like, great. For us, that was a great deal. We didn't have to worry about the cost of a PCB cleanup or the EPA coming back and grabbing us. It was one of those deals where I asked for it and they said yes, and I kind of said, did anybody really hear them say that? I couldn't believe they did it, but they did, and it worked out, you know. And this new one is also, they're getting some kind of government grant, housing grant to redo the building, the roof and things like that. So again, there's some contingencies in there. And we're sharing in the risk, kind of like what we're doing with the EPA and that other thing to try to make it a little more marketable. So it's more like a redevelopment program, and I think you have to look at, because remember we had the fund. I was one of the people that advocated for us, take some of the surplus, put it away, and then maybe we would have looked at the house in Greenwich if it was still there, and we might have said, let's use some of our fund to clean this thing up, and then we'll make more money at it. Well, the problem now is, as Al said to you, is we may not be making any money at these things in the future. So if somebody else has cleaned them up, maybe it's worth entering into some kind of partnership. And they're all, as Bob says, all different. So when I listened to that meeting, I said, well, I'm not sure I can just write a policy that describes each one of the ones we've already done would have its own policy, I guess.
I have Dave, then Dana Hogan, then Sue. Yours has been answered.
So if you want to go 50,000 foot like Al mentioned, we can do that. But I'm telling you, each one's still going to have this.
Can we have a policy that says we're not gonna do it?
Sure. Absolutely. Go away.
I'll make that motion.
Because I was approached by Greenwich. Their attorney called me and says, is there anything you can do? And I said, make a proposal and we'll listen to it, which is what we've said to everybody else.
Dana Hogan.
Roger, what's your recollection? What happened in the Cambridge matter?
Nothing. They just did it all themselves and they were very, very unhappy. They came and asked us to contribute, but I don't believe we had anything to do with it. It was never foreclosed on.
It was in the village.
Yeah, it was in the village. They put a lot of money into that. They took that building down brick by brick.
They didn't ask us.
Correct.
Right. They didn't ask us and they didn't attempt to because we had made the statement that if you do, you will not collect your taxes.
That was in the
But we're
village.
making an exception for Greenwich then, which.
Well, they didn't do it.
Saying if you create a policy, it's not gonna encompass everything.
I'm not sure. So the
They
one
didn't
in
do it
Cambridge,
contingent on us collecting their.
the one in the village, that was, I think, more of, it was the leadership at the time in the village. Because that had been gone over and over and over that building for years. And then whoever was in charge then decided it had to go. It had, you know, it had come up before and they said it's fine. It's been like that for 40 or 50 years. So the village, the leadership at the time of the village took the stand on their own. It didn't have anything to do with the county or the town or anything.
And we never,
Public safety, there was bricks.
we never foreclosed on it. I mean, that's the other
They didn't
thing.
want it.
They never came to us. It never came to us. So we never approached the situation like in Greenwich where it was on a tax, take all the other problems aside. It was on the foreclosure list and Cambridge could have come to us like Greenwich and said, hey, we just put a lot of money into this. Would you let us help redevelop this site, sell it, and then share the money? That never happened. It was never at the point where they could ask us to do that because it never made the tax, I don't believe, ever made the tax foreclosure list to the point where they could have come and said, we'd like to recover some of our money. This one in Greenwich did come to that point. So they came and asked, but in Cambridge, they just did it. And then they asked us to go in on it with them because they asked us to cash flow the project and try to get into grant and the board said no.
Sue?
It's interesting, I'm listening to everybody and thinking about what property in Salem. The one property is the Shushan Post Office, which could have some value to it, is almost floor to ceiling of bagged garbage.
Not anymore.
Oh, it's not.
We're working on that. But
Wonderful.
the difference is we already own that. So that's again, another situation where we have to look at things that we already own and how they present and whether or not we have to secure them, things that we don't own. I can't go over and work on. I can't do anything with it versus that property ended up in our hands. So now we are responsible for it. And we're talking about now how we're going to get that cleaned up in a reputable fashion. So again, it's a completely different situation than, and we've had some of these other things and the law says if we take an active part in the management, then we assume much more liability than if we don't take an active part. But in most cases, and the Link property is probably a good example of why we don't take title until 10 seconds before the sale, because we don't want something to go wrong and be stuck with it. And that's what we used to do. We used to do it, take title right after the taxes were due, and then we'd sell them a couple months later. And they were all, we had tenants in some of these buildings, we had all, and Fort Edward, my friends in Fort Edward, there would be all kinds of problems in Fort
Code
Edward.
enforcement all of a sudden.
Right, until the day we took title to all those properties in February, and then the code enforcement officer in Fort Edward would show up and go, you've got a bunch of violations. So, again, the reason we don't do that.
Sue has one more question, then we have Dan, I think Al and Brian.
They,
And then
again, the
ag
Lake
plan.
property, we have a covered bridge museum. There's a parcel that is a landlocked parcel on the river. No, you can't get to it, only by river. That's another thing, that's something the covered bridge museum has asked in the past before it's gone flipped off. I'm sure that's something that would benefit from a policy like this.
No, museum, the policy would not be museum, it'd be taxing entity, right, Dan?
Not for profit.
Don't ask me, I'm no for it.
Municipality or a taxing entity, like a school? No school?
Al, your paper, what you read said municipality. Or
Or a
just
nonprofit.
Or not for profit.
And so where's the line drawn?
What I just read you is just my thought, but it was misspelled.
Municipality.
No schools, no, okay.
Now, and I've forgotten about the firehouse transfer. The property we did to the firehouse agreement, was that, or grandparent, was that directly to them, or was
The
that?
fire company,
But was it through the town, or was it directly? to them?
directly to them.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's,
And they fix it back up and it's a training facility.
right,
My guys look at every one of these separately.
right, they're very ad hoc. I think.
Okay, Al has the floor
We get
now.
some inconsistent responses.
Yes, I don't want to speak for anybody, but my feeling when it came up was to prevent, like, your concern with the vacation donation policy was, I like employee X, but I don't like employee Y. This agenda item was kind of to try to do the same thing for the property transfers. Well, I like Village X, but I don't like Village Y. So let's memorialize something that says, look, we will do this upon these things being met. You can come to us with a proposal, and it's basically the board memorializing that if you have this instance, come to us and we will entertain it. Not a popularity contest on Village X is good, but Village Y is bad.
But if we're
All
gonna
villages
entertain
make
it, there's always gonna be a value judgment made. It doesn't say we're gonna do it if you meet these criteria. It says we'll listen to you.
But the intention of the request was to memorialize this, everybody can play this game.
Right, everybody can come.
Right.
Right,
And here are the parameters.
Here are the
You should
parameters.
know before you.
come, right,
That's all.
but it doesn't mean it's gonna happen.
Yes.
That sounds like a good idea. If we could see that paper.
Okay, I mean, it sounds a lot like that.
Yeah. And then bring it back
My
next
only-
month and.
My only question is, so when we talk about everybody, we've been kind of circling the definition of everybody here. So tell me what your preference is on everybody. Municipality, taxing district, public service
Taxing district or
agency.
no? Dana Hogan was no taxing.
It should be a tax, I'm against it anyway, but it should be taxing jurisdictions
Wrong.
or
number.
a not-for-profit charity type of 501c3, not a foundation,
All right,
Oh,
so that's
but a
the,
charity.
that's the museum.
which would be the firehouse. The firehouse is a 501c3 charity.
Dana Hogan, thinking town and village.
I say they get town and village and they can make a decision to transfer it along to the.
To a non
If you're guessing, it, we should.
I agree with Dana Hogan.
That's a good point.
Okay.
Dana Hogan's got the right idea.
Yes.
Brian, do you still have anything to say, or you all
The only
answered?
thing
My name.
sometimes I like to look at what the results gonna be, what we're gonna see in the future when
I'm the
we
one
do
sitting
this.
here watching
Because in
the
the
hands.
past, we've only seen a handful of these. So if we now have a policy, do we have a ton of these? And is that maybe a good thing with all the properties that are vacant? And I mean, there's good and bad to both of it. I'm just, where are we going from here? You know, we should be prepared for what actually comes out of this. There could be a lot of places. There could be 50 a year. And we just have to be concerned on how we set it up is what the consequences are, that's all.
Policy doesn't say you approve it, but these are the
See,
parameters.
Dan, this is why you end up like
But
standing
the
in the rock.
consequences will be a lot more to be considered.
Roger, can the village still file their cost complete and up? So
They can do it.
they can still do it.
And the county's
We'll
made,
cut them loose.
the county's made the policy statement that if you do that, we'll do this.
Sayonara.
But they can do it, yes.
And then that way they're guaranteed, no matter what outcome comes here today, they'll be guaranteed to get sold if it goes beyond what the county is owed.
They would keep,
They would be,
well, they would collect their own. We would each collect our own.
right, well, but in a tax sale,
But there would be two taxes.
They're out. If I foreclose on it, they're out.
Right.
if what?
If I foreclose on it, they're out.
They'd have to pay.
Oh,
our
they're
tax.
out of it?
They'd have to pay, we'd have competing tax
I
sales.
kill all liens except for state and
Oh,
federal.
okay, so they really, there's no protection for the village.
They'd have to foreclose on their lien before we foreclosed on our lien. Then our choice would be to pay their lien and foreclose. So that's why we don't do it that way, because it turns into a gigantic mess. Use different words.
Thank you.
Use mess.
Al,
And
It's a cluster.
to Brian's concern, I could alleviate that for you too, because I think you've heard Roger and I both say for at least 12 years, we're in the tax collection business, not the real property business, not the real estate business. So I don't care if there's 50 of them, if they all make me whole on the taxes. The number of them doesn't scare me, because if I'm getting my lien satisfied, I'd rather get my lien satisfied than to sell one property. So I don't care if there's 50 of them, if I make whole. But then we,
They're finding an avenue where they come to you and not to the board.
nope, but I always want to come to the.
No, that's what I'm saying is, there's a whole new pass to the board. So yeah, it's nice just to be can take care of it that way. Well, we're gonna see a whole different world.
Decide what to do.
Goes
But if they just say randomly,
That's all.
you need to foreclose
I think
on
the
our
word is
town.
out.
We'd like that.
I think people get that account.
I can say,
okay, so in summary, because we got 9 minutes, what do you guys want to do? Do you want Roger to scale up?
I'll
So
scale that policy up.
All right.
Bring it back.
for review.
Okay. Now that I know what you want, I know sort of.
so we change our mind.
Well.
In
I know
January.
more now than I did.
There's nothing else to come before the government ops meeting, right? We're adjourned.
Good.